This guy looks like a walking skeleton because of his immortality. People just treat him like a monster. But why? How could a monster be so gentle with stray dogs? One afternoon, this girl heads into an alley to feed them. But three guys are standing right there, giving her that creepy look. She's way too pretty to go unnoticed, and they start throwing out comments with obvious bad intentions. That is exactly when the immortal boy who lives out in these alleys with the dogs hears the commotion and steps up. The absolute second those punks see his face, they sprint away with their tails tucked. He really does look like a monster. Seeing his face, the girl totally panics and runs away too. But a little further down the road, she stops. He just saved her. She cannot just act like this. So she turns back around, thanks him, and mentions her food is way better than dog kibble anyway. Then she casually pets the dogs. The immortal boy genuinely thinks she must be an angel. Since he was 7 years old when they realized his body could not die, Kim Jio was locked inside a lab. They ran every illegal inhuman experiment imaginable on him, even surviving a hydraulic press. Here is the dark reason behind it all. In this world, a rare few are born with a mutant heart granting them insane superhuman powers. Kim Jio holds the immortal heart, making him entirely unable to die. He actually broke out of that lab 3 years ago. Right when he was cornered again, he chose death over losing his freedom. So he grabbed a high-voltage wire, frying himself alongside the two men chasing him down. But they forgot one crucial detail. Only Jio is immortal. He survives, but his body only fully heals if he eats massive amounts. So he spent 3 brutal years living homeless, constantly on the run. The girl's name is Heeji Song. Even absolutely terrified by his appearance, she still decides to help Jio out. She says she can stop people from fearing him, and then right on cue, Jio's arm literally falls off. His body is just way too weak right now. Even after that massive scare, Heeji brings him fresh clothes and does his makeup. She promises she will return the very next day. For years, Jio was only ever viewed as a twisted lab experiment or a monster. For the first time ever, his mutant heart feels a totally different warmth beating wildly in his chest. What is this feeling? But you know how this goes that night reality hits. The lab is still hunting and Heeji is in mortal danger. So the boy runs all night long, getting as far away as physically possible. The next day, a sneaky dog follows him completely unnoticed. And Heeji is right there too, completely exhausted. She spent hours searching for Jio, bringing food for the dogs and for him. This time, she brought something way better. Eating something that nutritious makes Jio's arm grow back incredibly fast. It is a massive shock. She quickly asks if his healing is normally this painfully slow. Jio explains that normally it would take years for his broken body to fully recover like that. That is with regular food. Heeji instantly asks if there is another way to speed the process up. Our guy considers admitting that drinking large amounts of blood would fix it, but he wisely decides to keep that disturbing fact to himself. So he lies, claiming rapid healing is only possible back in the lab and says that eating well is plenty for now. She asks if the lab healed him on purpose. Jio nods. They only did it to continue their brutal experiments, which is why those men relentlessly hunt him everywhere. Heeji completely understands the grim situation, asking if that is why he tried running away all alone. He confirms it. If she stays involved, she will absolutely be in mortal danger. Heeji stands right up, insisting they head to the police station this exact minute. He explains that going now just means being treated like a monster. He might even get shot. Heeji says not to sweat it since her older sister is a police officer. She even reveals her sister is a heart mutant exactly like him. Jio is genuinely shocked by this information, but he hesitates, thinking it over for a few seconds. Heeji asks him to just trust her because her sister is a truly good person. He watches the girls sweetly talking to the stray dogs. She tells the pups they will be totally fine once the shelter calls soon. The dog Potato barks and drools at our protagonist. Jio crouches to pet him, realizing he got helped out again, and whispers a quiet thanks. This time he swears he will not run away like some coward, promising to return and see the little guy again. This is the very first time Jio has ever experienced anything like this. After 3 years hunted like prey, someone finally reaches out first. He realizes having someone actually want to help him is a seriously strange feeling. He actually wonders if he can finally stop running. But brace yourselves, a speeding black car approaches. Blinding headlights leave him totally disoriented. He just looks back in sheer terror. Heeji watches helplessly as Jio gets hit head-on, slamming his skull brutally against the solid pavement. A guard snatches Heeji up. He barks at the others, "Grab that bastard right now," before a crowd actually shows up. They close in with baseball bats raised. Dozens of hands grab Jio at once, pinning him down completely. A guy lights up a cigarette. Finally caught this cursed skeleton. He orders the crew make the boy pay for everything they suffered. The cars tear off, speeding far away. In the back, Jio sits tied up tight with thick rope. This situation is a nightmare. He desperately strains his fingers, trying his hardest to just snap the binds. This is all his fault. Even Heeji got taken. A sharp turn hits and Jio completely loses his balance, falling hard. Absolute trash ability. He is completely powerless right now. He screams out for help, and suddenly his dogs come leaping right at the car. Pure rage, they start tearing into the rope. The ropes finally snap under their teeth. The car slams on the brakes, and the thugs turn around to check the noise. The street dogs snarl viciously at them. The thugs kick their doors open, stepping out and marching straight toward Jio. One guy just laughs. He asks if these stupid mutts went completely insane since it is not even dinner time yet. Jio groans in agony, watching helplessly. The thugs swing their heavy baseball bats, brutally smashing right into the animals. Jio forces himself up. These street dogs are literally fighting his battle for him. He has to do something fast. They are getting beaten to a pulp because of him. He drags himself toward the blood pooling on the asphalt. If he can just absorb it, his broken body might regenerate. He claws his way across the dirt. But it is too late. The thugs slaughter every single dog. Potato drops dead. Pure rage totally shatters his soul. Every single dog around him lies lifeless. 10 brutal years of his own life flash right before his eyes. 10 years as nothing but a human lab rat, opening his eyes every single morning to the exact same hellish routine. Needles pushing blood in, organs ripped out, day after endless day. He begged for death. He finally planned an escape and actually survived it. He thought he could finally just be happy, but the real world only treated him like absolute garbage. Everyone saw a monster, but this changes everything. The heart in his chest starts glowing. Hiji and the dogs never left him. They actually treated him like a human being. Suddenly, all the spilled blood on the ground creeps right toward him. The dark fluid rushes in, swirling around his skeletal frame like a violent whirlpool. From feet to arms, real flesh weaves back together. Jio recovers from head to toe, face last. He slowly looks up at the gang right after. His body is completely normal again. Warm blood pumps freely through his veins just like when he was a little kid. He whispers this cannot be real. It is the power of their blood. The thugs stumble back, suddenly unsure of what to do. One guy charges in, yelling to just grab him, but Jio swings a punch into his face and absolutely destroys him on impact. The thug launches backward, violently crashing into a car door, face totally buried in metal. Jio gently holds his dead dog. He tells them he knows exactly what the most painful death feels like. He will only spare the one who reveals where Hiji is. Cut to an abandoned junkyard. They yank a bag right off Hiji's head. She breathes hard, asking who they are. She glances sideways. The place is crawling with thugs. But right beside her is something infinitely worse. A massive pile of bloody corpses. The gang boss grabs her by the hair. He says she is way too loud, asking just how many lives she thinks she has. If she wants someone to blame, he sneers, blame that freak skeleton. She totally ruined her own life trying to help him. He warns her to shut her mouth if she actually wants to breathe. Around here, nobody cares if another body gets added to the pile. Suddenly, his phone buzzes. He stands up, barking into the receiver, wanting to know why his guy is calling instead of just showing up. The panicked voice on the line quickly drops the bad news. The boss growls, what is he talking about? Did some stray dogs interfere? The thug admits they completely lost the skeleton. The boss snaps. He smashes his phone against the dirt, roaring that if they do not catch him, the subordinate is paying with his life. He snatches Hiji up. Where did the skeleton go? Talk right now, he orders, but the girl just spits back that she does not know a single thing. Asks if she will still play dumb after taking a few bullets. Hiji curses herself. Jio was chased and she acted like an idiot. What is she supposed to do now? Suddenly, a thug comes flying through the air, crashing right behind the boss. The gangster whips around. A boy is standing right in the doorway. Nobody saw this coming. The boss demands to know who this kid is. Another thug steps up, confused by this random beggar. But Jio just reaches out and instantly crushes the guy by the throat. The dying thug cannot comprehend this terrifying strength. Jio states a cold fact: because of them, his dogs lost their lives. The thugs rush him fast. A heavy fist connects right with Jio's jaw, but the kid barely flinches, just spits out a mouthful of blood. Jio fires back instantly. His fist connects, sending the gangster launching through the air, while another thug suddenly locks him in a chokehold from behind. The guy hammers wild punches into his spine, but Jio does not even register the hits. He flexes, crushing the attacker in front, then slamming the guy on his back straight into the dirt. Everyone freezes at this absurd display of raw power. Over the chaos, Jio asks if the Hermes lab sent them. Hiji stares in pure shock. There is no doubt now, this kid is the real Jio. The boss yanks her hair back, screaming that the kid is the skeleton. A warning flashes in his memory. The skeleton looks completely different after regenerating. He almost missed the signs. Without another word, he shoots Jio right in the shoulder. The gang leader laughs, thanking the kid for crawling straight into their trap. He screams at his men to grab the heavy weapons they got as a payout. Every single gun turns on the boy. The boss yells out, bag this target, and they are all getting seriously rich. The order is brutal: keep firing so he cannot heal. An absolute storm of bullets rips through the air without stopping. Jio feels the agony completely take over. Flesh shreds open, bones shatter into pieces all over again. His lungs puncture, leaving him choking for a single breath of air. Hiji screams her lungs out for them to stop as Jio collapses hard. He pants heavily, struggling, yet his fingers dig deep into the broken earth. Soon fresh blood begins swirling all around his battered frame. It is the spilled blood of every person who died right there. That dark energy jumpstarts his heart with a massive beat. One of the panicked thugs calls out. He warns his boss the kid is literally coming back from the dead. Jio lifts himself from the dirt like a zombie, standing tall once more. The gang unloads their clips in total confusion. Meanwhile, Jio feels every single hot bullet rip through him. Metal shreds his muscles, yet his cells just violently stitch back together, trapping him in an endless loop of pain. But the agony is honestly not that bad, not when stacked against the absolute hell he has already been through. He remembers the cruel lab experiments, getting literally crushed alive inside that place. What Jio endured for years was infinitely worse. Then he lunges, smashing a shooter right in the jaw. The guy launches backward from the sheer force. Jio mutters, "Regular guns are an absolute joke." He tells them he could take these hits all day. The thugs look closely and realize he is actually floating off the ground. Jio steps in and strikes another henchman squarely on the arm. The bone snaps into pieces instantly, and the massive impact throws the guy away. A third thug turns around completely lost, but they all go down at an absolutely absurd speed. Jio refuses to stop for a single second. Rage fuels him, a burning anger that those innocent dogs died just to keep him safe. Another lackey gets blasted across the room. Jio marches closer and closer to the main boss, who nervously screams for him to back off. The boss threatens to execute the girl if he takes one more step, but Jio just drives a brutal punch straight into his face. Deep down, he realizes the worst pain of all is knowing he will never get to see his animal friends again. The gang leader crashes backward entirely, shattering the concrete wall. When he finally opens his eyes, pure terror washes over him. Watch this shift closely. The man begs for his life, promising to do whatever Jio wants, but Jio just says it is way too late. He aggressively slams the boss's head straight into the ground. The guy gets his face completely caved in, but that is not even close to enough. Jio brings his fist down again, repeating the strike dozens of times. He rains down 1,000 punches in a matter of seconds, leaving the leader's face entirely ruined and unrecognizable. Eventually, Jio stands back up with his fists dripping red. The bloody revenge is finally over. A massive pile of bodies surrounds him. He stands there panting, taking the carnage in. Hiji calls out his name, and he calmly walks to her side. She asks how he is even walking after taking so many bullets. Jio just pulls her into a hug. He says this is a relief because she survived. The loyal dogs died saving him today, and he was absolutely terrified that she was going to meet that exact same brutal fate. So he just whispers a quiet thanks that she made it. Hiji asks why he is the one thanking her, hugging him tightly. She admits she is the one who owes him everything. Sometime later, the cops arrive to clear the scene. They drag the gang leader away, writing the whole massacre off as an internal fight. Watching quietly from afar, Hiji makes a brief comment about the arrests. Jio asks if dodging the police investigation is really a good idea. The girl just replies that her older sister strictly told them to stay out of it for now. Her sister promised to handle the mess so they could leave. Hearing that, Hiji breaks down crying uncontrollably, and Jio starts shedding tears too. He stares down at the lifeless dogs, whispering a broken apology. Slowly, he calls out every single one of their names. Hiji cries that it is all her fault since they died trying to rescue her. She feels guilty, saying she barely took care of them, only giving out scraps of food and affection. Jio bites into his own finger, saying they died to give him their blood. The panicked girl asks what he is doing. He explains that blood heals him desperately, hoping his own drops might actually resurrect the poor animals. Red drops start falling, but the fresh cut seals up instantly. Jio just keeps biting down, totally frustrated and confused why his healing is working so fast. He forces the wound to bleed even more. Heiji begs him to stop. She says it will only make the poor dogs sadder. He argues they lost their lives because of him, so they must hate him now. But the girl insists they really liked him. She explains they never trusted people, but they liked Jio. They were badly hurt animals carrying terrible memories of humans. Jio admits he had no idea and just thought they were docile. She warns him that getting hurt and blaming himself will only make them suffer too. He looks down, gently hugging the body of Potato. She notes that they approached him without any fear at all because they sensed he was in the exact same situation. He thanks her for saying that, but suddenly a sharp bark echoes right behind them. It is the Potato puppy. Heiji breathes out. She was so worried and is beyond relieved he survived. The little dog walks right up to Jio. He stands completely still, just staring at the boy. Jio asks if the puppy hates him since his father and friends died for his sake, but the dog just licks his hand. Hiji smiles, noting the puppy clearly likes him too. Soon enough, the little guy ends up fast asleep right in Jio's arms. The girl is honestly not sure what to do next. She knows she absolutely cannot leave a newborn puppy alone out on the street. She also realizes those weird guys from the lab were definitely not normal people, meaning Jio desperately needs a safe place to hide. So she decides to call her sister. She explains that she followed their agreed plan, letting her older sibling handle the rest of the mess over the phone. Right after that, Heiji brings them both back to her house. It turns out to be a massive apartment sitting directly in the city center. She tells Jio to make himself entirely at home. He hesitates, asking if he can really come inside. He knows he is dangerous and really does not want to cause trouble, but Heiji quickly reminds him that he risked his own life to protect her. She adds that her sister actually wants to meet him. Her sibling is actively investigating a case tied to that laboratory and genuinely needs some help. Ultimately, she lets him inside. But pay attention here, Jio suddenly stops cold staring at his reflection in a living room mirror. The sight completely shocks him. He realizes he actually has normal cheeks, now a totally normal nose and normal lips. His face has finally gone back to how it originally looked. Since childhood, his skin had never managed to regenerate properly. Back at the lab, the healing process was painfully slow and they always ran fresh experiments before he could even recover. Now he finally discovers what his true face actually looks like. The girl remarks that every time he speaks, things get even crazier. She admits something has actually been bothering her since earlier today. Fully regenerated, he does not look like an older guy at all. She flat out asks his age. Jio admits it has been a very long time since he even thought about it. He does some quick math on his fingers, finally answering that he is exactly 17 years old. Haiji points out that is her exact age too. She demands to know why he stayed totally quiet while she respectfully called him sir all day. Jio casually explains he did not mind at all, simply being addressed as a real human being was enough to make him happy. This pure answer deeply moves the girl. She finds the whole situation incredibly sad yet somehow pretty cute at the same time. From now on, they agree to drop the titles and just use first names. Down on the floor, Potato tears into his bowl of food with the absolute greatest joy in the world. Jio is doing the exact same thing with the human food on the table. He happily announces that the meal is completely delicious. Haiji quickly apologizes, admitting she really does not know how to cook very well. But Jio instantly disagrees, swearing it is the absolute best food he has tasted in years. Haiji eventually announces her sister will not make it tonight, guessing she is just wrapped up with her busy work schedule. When their plates are finally empty, she starts clearing the table. She points right at the couch, telling him he will sleep there for today. Then she tosses him a nice thick blanket to stay warm. Mentioning she has homework to finish, she heads straight back to her bedroom. Jio is left standing completely alone in the middle of the living room. He looks from side to side, quietly admiring the massive place. He stares at the television, genuinely wondering if every thin screen is always that gigantic. He even notices the house flowers. They look so vastly different from the weird, sterile plants he saw back at the laboratory. Sitting down, he suddenly realizes the couch is incredibly soft. It feels a million times more comfortable than his old hard bed. Over in the corner, the puppy is still aggressively focused on eating until he suddenly chokes on a bite of food. That sudden noise catches Jio off guard. He watches the little dog coughing endlessly. Panic hits him instantly as he calls out to Potato, sprinting fast toward the tiny puppy. But the dog just swallows the chunk and goes right back to chewing like absolutely nothing happened. The dog clearly does not understand all his crazy fuss. Seeing it as nothing serious, Jio just smiles. Eventually, they both lie down on the couch to sleep. He murmurs about how cozy the place feels, gently asking if the little guy likes it here too. Thinking of a name, he notes the dog is a potato puppy, so he suggests the name Fry. The tiny dog just happily closes his eyes. Jio realizes this must be what normal people call happiness. He ate amazing food. He got to take a hot bath and he can actually sleep in a soft place. But he knows this peace could shatter any time remembering his violent past, escaping alongside the other mutants. Back then, the rest of them warn him the exit is close. But the soldiers realize these are high-level mutants and refuse to let anyone slip away. They trigger a massive explosion, blasting everyone totally out of bounds. Heavy rocks end up crushing a few of them instantly. Meanwhile, a guard levels a hand cannon and fires straight at the group, only to stand there completely stunned when the blast actually fails. A girl somehow blocks the whole assault using thick ice walls. He yells out for Jio to wake up. Another mutant grabs him, sealing off the passageway with heavy boulders. They just share this intense, determined look. The girl begs him to run, freedom is right there. So they barely manage to escape alive, but ultimately they get torn apart. He assumes she's probably out there suffering somewhere today, which is exactly why he swore nobody would ever take anything from him again, especially not this tiny piece of peace he finally found. If someone tries ruining this, Jio absolutely refuses to show mercy. But fast forward to the next morning and a loud scream rips right through the house. He sprints at full speed, yelling out for Twigum. He just needs to know where the dog vanished to. See, earlier on, Hai announces she has school and will return soon. She mentions her sister arrives tonight, asking him to keep an eye on the house. She has tons of work to handle anyway. Gio gets it, wishing her a great class, kind of thinking school actually sounds pretty fun. Right then, Twigum starts eagerly scratching at the front door. The girl finds his weird behavior pretty odd. She figures he isn't hurting, just super bored and dying to go outside too. So Gio casually asks if he should take the little guy out for a quick walk. Hai asks if going out is dangerous, since those hunters might still be chasing him, but he promises everything is fine. Nobody will recognize his totally healed face anyway. She totally agrees that sounds great. She just reminds him to strap a leash on the dog first. Later on, he walks while Twigum rolls around the dirt. He wonders aloud if the collar feels too uncomfortable, questioning if he tightened the strap way too much around his neck. He really hopes it doesn't hurt, mostly because he wore something horribly similar back then. His old collar literally burned his entire body. Still, he has no choice. Folks might complain about a loose pet wandering around here. But right then, Twigum suddenly vanishes into thin air. Total panic hits, and honestly, you can feel those dark memories flashing through his mind. Now the dog is totally fine, happily trotting around the city. Meanwhile, Gio sprints everywhere, practically begging the little guy to just show up. He actually checks inside random street trash cans, even peeking under parked cars just in case. Then he digs deep through another sidewalk bin. He just frantically racks his brain, desperate to figure out how to locate Twigum. Did the dog get hit by a car in traffic? Or maybe some awful person did something completely cruel to him? After all, he promised last night to protect this animal from absolutely everything. That is until he spots a little shape sitting right in the courtyard. Guys are busy playing soccer while Twigum just sits there calmly in the corner. He simply chills there watching the game without moving an inch. Gio dashes over, wondering if the dog somehow caught Hayes' scent from miles away, but a teacher ends up spotting his unexpected presence nearby. The guy tells him to hold on a second and listen up. Before the teacher even finishes talking, the boy completely vanishes. He charges straight toward his runaway dog, ignoring absolutely everything else. The guys just keep playing soccer peacefully while everyone else goes about their normal daily routines across the schoolyard. Gio actually finds it hilarious seeing everyone acting so ridiculously cheerful at a basic school. But one detail truly grabs his attention. A few kids mention that mutants started escaping from a lab facility. Plus, the TV broadcast warns that reporting illegal mutants pays out a genuinely absurd cash reward. It hits him fast. Regular people have an intensely harsh view of mutants. So he decides to grab Twigum carefully and leave immediately. Except the dog suddenly decides to wander off again. Right nearby, some girls are busy filming dance videos on a phone. They chatter about how their friend looks absolutely perfect in the footage. The girl smiles happily, praising her friend's gorgeous looks in return. But then Twigum wanders straight into their group. She leans down, hugging the dog and calling him so cute. They quickly decide to film the little animal for social media, but Gio ends up completely bombing the corner of their live video. Those girls get a massive jump scare when he literally appears out of nowhere. Stepping from behind the tree, he awkwardly apologizes for the interruption. He explains he never meant to scare anyone, he just came to quietly retrieve his lost dog. But the three girls just stare, realizing he is ridiculously good-looking up close. Spotting his uniform, they figure he is a new student and desperately want to know his name. Gio completely freezes up urgently, asking if he just appeared on her screen. He warns them deadly, seriously, he absolutely cannot appear in any videos online. But the girl totally ignores his panic, holds out her phone, and boldly asks for his Instagram. She claims she just wants to tag him. Meanwhile, the other girls whisper how this is the first time she has ever chased a guy's socials. But the problem here, our guy doesn't even know what Instagram is. Minjung thinks he is totally her type and finds his awkward vibe adorable. He just blankly replies that he does not have anything like that. She stands there totally lost. He just bows, thanking her for the thought. Her friends gasp, watching her actually get rejected. Minjung instantly gets irritated, thinking he is playing way too hard to get. Right then, Gio scoops up his dog. He apologizes to the little guy, swearing he will never let him out of his sight again. Across the yard, some guy watches this and boils over with rage, wondering who this new kid is. A buddy points out that Minjung is the girl Taegu likes. He claims this new guy is using the puppy to hit on her. Taegu goes ballistic. He asks how this absolute trash dares to steal his girl. He snatches a soccer ball from his friend, lining up a direct shot at Gio. He swings hard, kicking it with insane force. The ball rockets straight for his head, but Gio is too busy checking on the dog in his arms. He just lets the impact smash directly into his own face. The girls freak out, asking if he is alright as blood starts dripping onto the pavement. Taegu throws out a fake apology, claiming the ball just slipped. Minjung yells that it almost hit her too, checking on the new kid. But Gio just warns Taegu to be careful, his dog almost got hurt. Taegu cracks up laughing. He tells his crew to check out the guy's dumb expression, asking again if he is alive since the last guy who took that hit shattered his nose. Gio just repeats that he is fine, but the dog was nearly injured. Taegu offers another fake apology. Jio just says it is fine and turns to walk away with his pet. The second he leaves, Taegu orders his boys to dig up dirt on this kid. He hates his face. Meanwhile, Jio is just relieved he did not lose his dog, Freeze. Plus, chasing him meant seeing the school and other kids his age. He finds the whole chaotic experience kind of fun. He figures if he actually went to school, he might have made plenty of friends. Almost on cue, Taegu calls him over apologizing again for the ball incident. He says since they are in the same grade, they should be buddies, and since Jio took a hit, a simple sorry is not enough. So he offers to buy him some bread. Jio innocently asks if the bread is any good. Taegu swears it is absolutely delicious. Jio even asks if they sell anything for his dog to eat. Taegu plays it off, claiming he was just showing off for the girls. He promises tons of food, but the second they turn the corner, Taegu kicks Jio with absolutely everything he has. The rest of the thugs are waiting. They ask if he seriously dragged the guy out here. They crack up mocking Jio for following them just for the promise of some bread. One bully jokes that the new kid seems a little slow. They laugh it off, promising to stuff him with bread until he chokes. Now watch this, goes south fast. Taegu raises a hand, calling him a coward and demanding why he was acting so cocky earlier. Jio is totally lost, asking what he means. Taegu screams that he was hitting on Minjung, bragging that Jio will cry after one punch. The whole gang starts jeering. Jio finally pieces it together. He thought he was making friends, but this was a trap all along. So he just turns and apologizes. He offers to leave if he made them uncomfortable, but the thugs step up, blocking his path and asking where he thinks he is going. Jio warns them to move because his dog is getting scared. One thug mocks the mutt for being like its owner and swings, but Jio just swats him, sending the guy launching across the alley with one casual punch. The rest of the gang stares in shock, unable to process the distance. Taegu freezes in pure disbelief. The new kid barely even moved his arm. The remaining punks rush him all at once. They scream out, demanding to know if he was the one who actually threw their friend. Jio just closes his eyes for a brief second. Inside, his mutant heart starts glowing. He drops every single attacker with zero effort. Then he darts straight at Taegu, cocking his fist back. But he stops the strike barely an inch from the bully's nose. The sheer wind pressure pins Taegu back. His fist buries into the brick right above Taegu's head. Jio calmly repeats his warning. He told them to stop because his dog was scared. The fallen thugs try calling out, but pure fear takes over, and they sprint away. Taegu just stares, completely paralyzed as the wall crumbles behind him. He knows the truth, one hit like that, and his bones turn to absolute dust. Realizing he picked a fight with a monster, he drops straight to his knees, begging for mercy. He even pulls out a photo of his own dog, desperately trying to build some sympathy. Jio immediately decides he must be a nice person while Taegu just keeps pleading. Suddenly, Jio's stomach lets out a massive rumble. He mutters that using even a tiny bit of strength always makes him hungry. Tu finds it absolutely bizarre for the guy to just feel hungry out of nowhere in the middle of a fight. He figures the kid is faking forgiveness while secretly demanding a meal. Soon after, the two end up right in the school cafeteria. Jio thanks him and promises to eat well. Tu just watches the whole thing go down from a distance. He spots the kid sharing his food with a stray dog. Tu simply cannot process what goes on in his head. The guy is an absolute monster in combat, yet acts like a total idiot right now. Just minutes ago, he sent a grown man flying through the air. Cracking a solid wall like that would be completely impossible even for a pro athlete. He has never witnessed anything like this before. He decides extreme measures are required and dials up his older brother. Young Chul picks up and instantly asks what happened this time. Tu asks for some backup. Annoyed young Chul asks if he got beaten up again since he is busy. But Tu explains this kid can actually fight, begging him to come and calling it his absolute final request. Then he reveals the target is that crybaby redhead everyone assumes is a complete loser. Another guy jumps in asking how well he fights and offering to handle it himself. Tu explains they need to head near the school. He promises to lure the target outside in no time. Tu thinks Jio's totally doomed now, but out of nowhere, Jio offers him food. Eating alone feels embarrassing, he admits. Tu tells him to just eat it all. He can treat him like this multiple times today. This is where the pieces connect. He wonders how Jio got so strong, his mind wandering back to the crazy events from earlier. Jio definitely wrecked his fist when he smashed that wall, yet now his hand looks perfectly normal, sending people flying with absurd strength, healing major wounds instantly. The bizarre combination really catches his attention. Toe remembers hearing rumors about heart mutants using wildly different abilities. Could Jio actually be part of that dangerous group? Jio casually asks where he got that weird idea. Tu thinks about it. He has never seen a real mutant, and Jio looks totally ordinary. That changes everything. If he is a mutant, even his older brother might end up seriously hurt for absolutely nothing. He flat out asks if he is dealing with a heart mutant. Tu confirms the crazy situation and warns his brother. He says it might be better to forget everything, way too dangerous. But young Chul thinks that sounds incredible. He promises they will definitely handle the freak, telling Tu to hold the fort until they arrive. Jio announces he is full and ready to leave. Tu warns him there is still plenty of time before lunch ends, but Jio insists he really needs to head home. Tao thinks fast. He desperately needs to stall this guy until the brothers show up, so he suggests they skip the rest of their boring classes. They head straight to a spot called Gameland. Jio is absolutely amazed by the flashing lights, wondering what this place even is. He openly confesses he never knew such places existed in the world. First time for everything. He points excitedly, noticing the claw machine has the exact same doll Hiji carries around on her backpack. Tu asks if it really is his first time seeing a machine like this. He pushes him to try playing at least once to see. He explains the simple rules: just control the metal claw, hook the doll, and pull it right up. Miraculously, Jio manages to grab the prize and drop it right at the exit. He celebrates, wildly thrilled to have a doll just like Hiji. Tu realizes the kid is having a blast. Stalling him until his brothers finally show up will not be a problem at all. Next up, he asks if Jio has ever been to a coin karaoke booth. He explains the whole setup. Pick a song, say what you want to sing, and the giant machine plays the track for you. Jio confesses he does not actually know any songs. Tu tells him to just sing whatever comes to mind, so Jio belts out a random children's song. He sings with absolute pure determination. Tu sits back wondering how long this weirdly innocent act can possibly last. Jio quietly explains this is truly the only song he knows. His mother taught it to him right before they got separated when he was only 7 years old. After that day, a normal life was completely impossible. Tu grows strangely thoughtful at that heavy revelation. He really wants to know what this guy truly is. If all heart mutants carry deep trauma like this, the tragic story is seriously affecting his own emotional side. He decides to give the kid an extraordinary day, promising to show him a whole new world of absolute fun. They smash away on an arcade drum machine, spending a massive chunk of time battling each other and fighting games. Jio even trips and fully faceplants on a dance machine. Tu bursts out laughing, calling him totally and hopelessly clumsy. The hours melt away. They honestly have a blast. Jio smiles warmly, calling today the absolute most fun he has ever had in his entire life. Suddenly, a phone loudly rings and Tu wonders who would call at this late hour. It is young Chul, demanding he answer that stupid phone already. Tu freezes. He completely forgot he was supposed to hold Jio down for a beatdown. He got so carried away having real fun that they even took cute photo booth pictures together. Taegu flips through the photos, smiling to himself. There is Jio right on the screen, just chilling with his little dog. Later, in some sketchy alleyway, he finally meets up with the gang. He plays dumb, apologizing and claiming Jio is definitely not a mutant. This just ticks the delinquents off even more. Taegu swears it is totally out of his hands. He remembers hearing that little pup is Jio's only real family. He tells the gang the whole situation is just incredibly sad. He totally gets it because his own dog is 17 years old now. He has no clue how much time the poor guy has left, and honestly thinking about it brings him to tears. He is literally still sobbing about dogs when a fist suddenly flies at his face. Young Chul clocks him with a brutal punch, sending Taegu flying. The gang leader walks over while Taegu groans on the pavement. He yanks the kid up by his hair, asking if this looks like a joke to him. He demands to know where the mutant is right now. He yells out, "Are you completely deaf to what I am saying?" The entire crew gathered here tonight specifically to bag this guy. Taegu scrambles to explain he spent the whole day with Jio and felt absolutely zero mutant energy. He swears Jio is just some ordinary weakling who actually passed out after 2 silly arcade games. He calls the guy a massive idiot, apologizing profusely for making everyone come out here for nothing. Young Chul asks if he is absolutely positive nobody else is around. He wonders aloud, "Are you just throwing a tantrum because your big brother beat you up?" He tells Taegu that the lie is basically written all over his stupid face. He orders him to spit out the real reason he suddenly backed out. He asks, "Are you getting cold feet because mutants are actually dangerous?" He promises the gang will not take an L on this deal, laughing right in Taegu's face. Taegu asks if they are completely serious. Young Chul immediately offers him a crisp $500. Hand over the mutant and that cash is entirely his. They already have a shady broker perfectly lined up to buy the guy. Taegu panics internally. Wait, is this not straight-up human trafficking? Mutant kidnappings are blowing up lately. Word on the street says the government and shady research labs pay absolute top dollar for specimens. He thought those were just dumb rumors. Now he sees his supposed big brother pulling dark web crimes in real life. Young Chul just calls the kid completely worthless. Then young Chul steps up and delivers an absolutely brutal kick. The impact launches the boy hard against the brick wall. This entire situation just turned into absolute hell for Taegu. The leader barks a simple order: beat him until he finally spills everything. The thugs start kicking him relentlessly. Taegu curls into a tight ball, desperately trying to block the savage blows. Groaning in pure agony, a memory hits him. He used to get beaten exactly like this back in the day, with bullies calling him nothing but a total nerd. Back then, young Chul stepped in. He demanded to know who gave first-year punks the right to bully people. The kid scrambled away, apologizing. Taegu called him a brother back then. Young Chul claimed the kid belonged to his dojo, so nobody else was allowed to beat him. Taegu thought the guy looked insanely cool fighting like that. He desperately wanted them to be real brothers, chasing that incredible bond. Back in reality, young Chul warns that he has known Taegu way too long. He can spot his lies from a mile away. He calls the kid incredibly loyal, but selling mutants to a runner is entirely serious business. He explains that dealing solo barely brings in $200 or $300. When your body is broken, loyalty means absolutely nothing. He reminds Taegu about his big dream to live an incredible life. He claims chasing massive bags of cash is totally shameless. So they had originally agreed to just live loud and incredible lives together. But Taegu just cries out, "I am sorry for everything." He admits he does not feel incredible at all in this moment. Taegu instantly regrets opening his mouth. Young Chul gets totally furious, saying he gets the message loud and clear. Taegu apologizes again, begging that it just slipped out. A fist wrapped in chain swings down. But watch this. Jio appears and grabs young Chul right by the arm. Jio calmly points out that chain is thick as a finger, complete with heavy weld marks. Taking a direct hit from that would leave a nasty wound for months. The thugs all freeze, staring and wondering who this random guy is. Taegu is completely shocked to see him. Jio casually explains he came searching because his buddy was taking way too long to return. Taegu screams at him to run away. He confesses right there, these are guys he knows, and he actually called them here to jump Jio. He openly admits he sold out the secret about Jio being a heart mutant. Taegu grits his teeth, absolutely disgusted with his own betrayal. He says he was just furious about losing earlier today, apologizing endlessly for the setup. But Jio ignores it, asking why Taegu is just standing around taking a brutal beating. Young Chul stares in sheer disappointment while Taegu stays completely speechless. Suddenly, one of the thugs bashes Jio hard in the head. The rest of the gang immediately swarms in and starts jumping him. They repeatedly crack Jio across the skull. Nearby, his little dog, Fry, starts barking in total panic. Taegu desperately tries to block the hits for him. A thug laughs, asking if this idiot mutant seriously just delivered himself. But Jio stays low quietly, dragging his fingers through the fresh blood on the ground. He absorbs the blood right through his fingers. And here is where things get wild. The thug steps back in pure terror. Jio instantly lashes out, completely shattering his jaw. He becomes a blur, dodging every incoming attack. Jio uses that momentum and tosses the guy straight across the room. He finally gets to his feet, halts right in front of the mob, and gives them a dead stare. Young Chul screams out an order to kill him. The whole gang charges forward with baseball bats raised high. They try beating him down mercilessly. But watch closely. Suddenly, one thug goes flying through the air and the rest follow. Jio rushes in and wrecks another delinquent. Then he instantly drops a second guy. He looks up just as a bat swings down hard on his head, but Jio barely flinches and punches the attacker right in the spine. The punk slams into the wall, totally shattering it. The thugs wonder how he is so ridiculously strong, but Jio just grabs another throat. Young Chul charges in with a knife and orders his goons to back him up. The boss figures a stab wound will kill this kid like anyone else. Jio just complains that the strike hurts like crazy, but he only spits out a bit of blood. Young Chul wildly stabs him on repeat until Jio finally catches the blade. The heavy guy stares in pure shock. Jio casually tells him to knock it off. Then he just yanks the weapon right out of his hand. Young Chul shakes in absolute terror, wondering how this kid is still standing. Jio tells him his heart is none of his business and drives the blade straight into the fat guy's thigh. The remaining goons completely give up the fight, but our protagonist darts right past them. He catches everyone with terrifying speed. He reminds them they know his identity now, meaning zero chances of escape. Taegu actually cries out with joy. With the criminals totally crushed, Jio holds them up for Taegu, who nervously calls his name. Asking if he is okay, Taegu offers to call for an ambulance, but Jio shrugs it off as fine. Worrying about the stab wound, reality suddenly hits the friend and he turns his face away in pure shame. He quickly spits out an apology. Then he punches his own face, muttering that he really needs to choose friends better. Basically, he sold his own friend out. He begs for forgiveness and admits he used to be pretty tight with this gang. Thinking that hanging with them would bring safety, he realizes he is just garbage. He looks up a second later. Jio holds out a random cloth. He points out the bloody nose and tells Taegu to clean it up. Taegu takes it and questions if this is actually for wiping blood. Then he realizes it is literally a puppy pee pad. Deciding to use it anyway, Taegu wipes his face. Jio dryly notes that earlier he claimed they were no longer friends. Jio admits the feeling of friendship was mutual anyway, so things are fine between them. Taegu gets totally caught off guard. Hearing that absolutely breaks him. He hugs Jio tight and just bursts into ugly tears. He sobs out apologies and calls Jio a great guy. Meanwhile, young Chul begs to leave and promises he learned his lesson. Swearing to keep the mutant secret safe, the boss gets cut off. Taegu turns furious and asks what nonsense he is spouting. A swift kick to the thug's face follows. Taegu yells about apologizing, first calling the guy utter trash and a total pig. Taegu claims he knew it from the very first glance. Watching from a distance, Jio loudly asks if they used to be friends. Now the friend asks what they should actually do with these thugs. But young Chul frantically begs for just a second of mercy. He promises to behave and desperately pleads against calling the cops. Right on cue, a loud police siren wails in the background. The local officers arrive on the scene announcing they got a noise complaint from a neighbor. Panic instantly takes over the gang. Taegu smiles, noting the cops showed up at the exact right moment. He points fingers and accuses the trash of human trafficking. He tells the cops a quick hideout raid will expose all their evidence. Calling them all dangerous criminals, he boldly demands a full police arrest. But right then, young Chul starts screaming at the top of his lungs. He cries out for help, weeping about broken bones and his stabbed leg. He acts super thankful for the police and claims his group got brutally attacked. Honestly, it is totally absurd. Taegu steps up asking who exactly beat up whom, and explains these guys caused the whole bloody kidnapping mess. Young Chul points straight at Jio, crying about how the kid lacks a single scratch while his whole gang lies completely ruined. Taking the cue, every single thug suddenly plays the victim card. The officers demand quiet, saying they will sort out the mess back at the station. But young Chul wildly reveals Jio is a heart mutant. He screams that a mutant is the only reason one kid beat an entire gang. The cops instantly give Jio a look of pure disgust. They question his mutant status and harshly demand his identification and registration papers. Jio calmly replies he does not carry anything like that. The officers demand to know if he is dodging the government registry. They warn him flat out breaking the special mutant law has consequences. They decide to register him on the spot. Hand over the ID, show off the power, those are the orders. Jio just stands there, totally lost. The situation makes zero sense to him. His mind races. If those laboratory psychos flag this, it is game over. The second he gets put in that system, the government can track his every single move. Right on cue, Haynes steps in and tells the guards to hold up. She gives a polite nod. Both officers immediately demand to know who this kid is. No explanation from her. She just shoves her phone forward and tells them to listen. The officer grabs it without thinking twice. The voice on the line drops a bomb. It is Superintendent Hayne from the mutant department. Total panic hits the officer. He stammers through a frantic introduction. She lays out the facts. This is an attempted kidnapping of a heart mutant. Her order: arrest the street thugs immediately. This mutant is just a bystander and walks free, no debate. As team leader, she promises to handle the final paperwork. Snapping to attention, the officer accepts it. He drops the phone and screams for his men to cuff the thugs. The innocent kids get cut loose. Young Chul stares in pure shock, begging to know what went wrong. Who the hell was on that call? Someone with enough authority to wipe out his entire crew with a single sentence. He glares at the mystery girl. Meanwhile, Jio is just as confused. How did she even find him in this mess? Hang casually mentions spotting him at school. He was surrounded by shady guys, so she tailed him. Jio blinks. Wait, does she mean Taegu? He tries to process this absolute chaos. Taegu just stares at her like she is a literal goddess. The guy is practically dying of jealousy. Jio marches up to the squad car. What was the master plan for him? He demands to know if the Hermes laboratory pulled the strings. Young Chul spits back that he does not know any lab. His crew was just supposed to hand the kid off to a local underground broker. Heart mutants. These guys specialize exclusively in trafficking them. Making a massive call, Jio announces he is hunting those brokers himself. With that settled, the thug gets hauled off. Haynes snaps. No way is she letting him walk into a death trap. She warns him it is suicide. He has zero clue how vicious those syndicates actually are. Her own sister warned her about them. They strictly hunt heart mutants, and they are absolute unforgiving monsters. Jio looks right at her. That is exactly why he wants a meeting. Hayne cannot wrap her head around this insane obsession. Jio awkwardly scratches his cheek. The truth, those brokers might be his only lead to finding his lost friends. Taegu frowns. Did Jio not just admit he was a loner? Jio clarifies the facts. Out here, zero friends. But back inside the hellscape of the laboratory, he had plenty. Life in there meant surviving brutal experiments daily. Now watch how twisted this gets. One day, they drag him somewhere deep and pure terror sets in. What sick test did they have planned today? Then, without warning, the sky literally starts raining solid steel swords. He watches the blades tear through the air. This torture loop is about to repeat endlessly. Panic grips him, but backing down means facing something far worse from the guards. The heavy door slides open, and the scene inside is absolute mayhem. One kid hurls a barrage of knives at an ice-controlling girl. Over in the corner, another boy frantically tries to wrangle a swarm of bees. Jio stands totally frozen. He watches a massive blade literally grow right out of a kid's bare hand. The target is aimed straight for his skull. A lethal slash cuts through the air, but the ice girl reacts, instantly freezing Jio solid to save him. The attacker jumps back in shock. Jio thaws out seconds later, leaving the girl looking incredibly smug. She smacks the knife kid right upside the head. "Are you blind?" she yells. "The new guy is not a monster." She points aggressively at Jio's standard-issue laboratory coat. Jio has absolutely no idea what is happening. The other test subjects rush over, eyes shining with pure hype. Jio immediately tries to cover his face, totally embarrassed. They spot his shame right away. "Hey, relax." They tell him, "You only look like a creepy skeleton because of the mutation. No big deal." They excitedly ask if this is his first time in a learning class. Right on cue, the chaotic group starts introducing themselves. And just like that, Jio found his crew. This hidden room was a gathering spot for kids treated as disposable lab rats. The scientists gave them scrap basic education here. Every single one of them was a mutant, letting them bond instantly. These sessions only drop a few times a year, making every meeting rare. Even so, Jio is just left trying to process the madness. Back in the present, Taegu is practically bawling over Jio's tragic past. Hain connects the dots. He actually had a real family in there. So where did they go? Jio's voice drops. The night they finally broke out, the guards hunted them down, forcing the whole group to scatter. Hain figures it out instantly. This is why he needs the underground market. The broker might have captured the others. She looks him in the eye. "Go hunt this guy down." She promises to back him up completely, and Taegu immediately nods along. Taegu smirks, holding up his prize. Snagging young Chul's phone was a genius move. The broker's direct line has to be saved in contacts. He pulls up the contacts, saying he planned to track this guy down around 7 o'clock tonight. Jio decides the time is now and they need to move. Meanwhile, across town in some rundown warehouse, thugs violently rush a hooded figure. The guy casually sidesteps every single strike, summoning a glowing blade right into his empty hand. He mocks their sloppy forms. "Swing a knife like that and you will not cut a thing." Seconds later, the entire gang drops down hard. The boss pulls out a gun, yelling that they need serious firearms against him. But before he can even pull the trigger, his revolver gets sliced in half. The leader just freezes in pure terror. Li Shiwan smirks, noting that a proper cut slices right through solid steel. This guy possesses the legendary sword heart. Sensing total danger, one thug completely panics and runs. It does not work. He takes a heavy hit and instantly crashes to his knees. Shiwan sarcastically wishes him better luck next time, checking a sudden text message. His relaxed vibe vanishes in a split second. The text sender claims they have a product ready to sell right now. Looks like he just landed a brand new client. Back to Jio, who remembers the target's specific alley. He glances around and confirms he found the exact spot, shifting his focus over to a massive shipping container. Checking the time, he notes there are still 30 minutes left before the shady broker arrives. These brokers literally traffic humans with special hearts, and rumor says this guy might be a mutant himself. A quick flashback shows Hiji asking if he seriously plans this. She warns him that these twisted hunters harvest hearts, adding that plenty are totally dangerous mutants themselves. Jio argues that a mutant dealer is exactly what he needs. This guy might be the only lead to finding his friends. He tells her to relax because he is just scouting from a distance today. Plus, with his crazy skills, running away is basically guaranteed. He crouches low, knowing that was a complete lie to keep Hiji calm. The dark reality is these monsters sell people exactly like him. Given half a chance, he fully intends to wipe every single one out. To pull off a surprise ambush, he definitely needs to secure a solid weapon first. Rushing headfirst into a squad of heart mutants is pure suicide. You always have to figure out a mutant's specific power before engaging. Out of nowhere, a flying blade shoots over. Jio barely ducks, watching the steel poles behind him get sliced like butter. The sheer cutting power leaves him stunned. Chi-Wan loudly asks who is hiding there. He mocks the kid for doing a terrible job lurking in the alley shadows. He demands to know if this obvious spy works for the cops. Jio squints, wondering if this guy is the actual broker. Seeing a basic knife, he starts thinking he might just be a completely ordinary human. If he is just a regular guy, taking him down will be an absolute breeze. Jio tightens his grip, pushing all his strength forward and blitzing at max speed. He expects an instant knockout before the guy can even react, but his flying fist freezes mere inches from the target's face. Total confusion hits him until his eyes focus and he realizes he is staring directly at his old friend Chi-Wan. Chi-Wan readies his blade, demanding to know how this stranger knows his name. He instantly lunges, unleashing a brutal flurry of slashes directly at Jio. Jio hits the concrete hard. He tries to scramble right back up, only to realize his legs are dead, his tendons were completely severed. A massive strike in less than a heartbeat. That weapon is dangerously sharp. His swordsmanship is absolutely unreal. Back in the day, during a desperate escape, heavy stone debris was hurled right at them, only to get effortlessly shredded before causing any damage. Chi-Wan was the one pulling that off, confidently yelling that he would carve out a safe path. Snapping back to reality, Chi-Wan repeats his harsh question, "Who are you?" But then he catches the protagonist acting in a completely bizarre manner. He watches in pure shock as the guy casually pushes himself up despite having shredded tendons. Jio finally replies he is Kim Jio, the guy who used to be a literal skeleton. Chi-Wan freezes, totally thrown off by that bizarre answer. He asks if he means the guy from the lab. Jio smiles, confirming he survived the ordeal and saying it has been long. Chi-Wan fires off a few more rapid questions to verify the story. Jio explains his body healed itself fully, believing his old buddy recognizes him now. Instead, Chi-Wan grips his weapons tight, and as Jio runs over, he hurls a rapid storm of daggers. Jio somehow manages to stay on his feet after that wild attack. He points out that his friend clearly knows who he is now, so why is he still trying to butcher him? Chi-Wan coldly replies that watching those fresh wounds instantly regenerate proves it really is Kim Jio. Jio nods, telling him to look closer, but Chi-Wan just explodes forward again. He swings his sword with deadly intent, forcing the protagonist into a desperate narrow dodge. He rolls across the dirt, his mind spinning as he tries to figure out why his closest friend is fighting to kill. Chi-Wan blitzes him again, shouting that Jio knows the reason better than anyone. He immediately unleashes a storm of cuts, slicing directly into the protagonist's arms and legs. Jio realizes that no matter how fast he twists away, the guy just keeps landing every single strike. If this one-sided beatdown keeps dragging on like this, he's going to bleed out completely. So Jio decides he needs to calm his friend down first and ends up with his arm pierced straight through by the blade. Chi-Wan stands right over him. He asks if Jio seriously thinks bare fists are any match for a drawn sword. Jio replies that he knows exactly how dangerous his old friend is. But then Chi-Wan notices a pretty wild detail. Jio used his own arm as bait just to trap the blade. In that exact instant, Jio grabs his hand with brutal force. He locks on with maximum strength and pulls him right back. This catches even Chi-Wan completely off guard. Then Jio throws him straight into a nearby structure. The dust settles after a few seconds. Chi-Wan says he thought Jio was just a weakling, but now sees he is packing serious strength. He asks why Jio ran away if he could actually fight like this. Jio is totally lost, asks what he means. Chi-Wan recalls that awful day at the lab when they tried to escape together. A guard caught one of the boys while everyone else was desperately hiding in the shadows. Chi-Wan asks for more metal to form an iron pipe. Jio was staring the situation right in the face. They were completely surrounded and about to lose their lives right there. And at that exact moment, Jio abandoned everyone and ran away. Jio frantically tries to explain himself. He says he had no other choice, everyone would die if he stayed put. But Chi-Wan just touches the wall and calls him a straight coward. Every piece of metal in the room responds to his hand. He says he knows all about the regeneration. Then he warns Jio if he chops him to pieces, growing back is going to take a while. That is why he tells Jio to go ahead and try to survive this attack. Jio thinks he needs to block the strike with his arm, but his abdomen gets sliced wide open in that split second. Chi-Wan stops behind him. He says the real threat was right there. Even the heavy iron beams are sliced in half. People passing by in the distance hear the massive crash and wonder what just happened. Heiji tells Tu to call the cops immediately. Inside the construction site, Chi-Wan notices the regeneration is way faster now. He finds it completely absurd that Jio is fine after a hit like that. But Jio insists he misunderstood everything, he never ran away. He explains how he fought to the bitter end to protect everyone at the lab. He only came here to try saving whoever was still trapped inside. Chi-Wan seriously questions if this was all just a massive misunderstanding. They both start hearing the noisy crowd gathering outside. Then Chi-Wan aggressively breaks free from his grip. He mutters that he caused way too much trouble. He tells Jio to head to his hideout if he wants to talk more. He adds that a lot has changed since that day and they have plenty to discuss. Jio remains pretty hesitant about this. He realizes Chi-Wan has completely flipped his entire personality. He used to be such a lively and charming guy. Jio wonders what on earth happened for him to end up living in a hideout dealing with shady brokers. Back in the present, Chi-Wan chops an onion with sheer force. Jio is left with his mouth wide open watching this. The young man tosses the ingredients high into the air, putting on an absolute show. The crowd around them is totally captivated by the scene. Jio wonders if this burger stand is really the supposed hideout. He desperately tries to understand what went down for Chi-Wan to turn out exactly like this. Meanwhile, Chi-Wan casually hands out the burgers and tells the crowd to try them. Everyone immediately starts whispering about how incredibly handsome he is. Jio cannot even comprehend what is happening right now. He wonders if this is really the dark hideout, realizing just how totally crazy this whole situation is. Later on, Chi-Wan finally sits down and explains that this is literally where he works. Jio feels a bit awkward about the big revelation. Chi-Wan smirks, pointing out that this means Jio is officially unemployed. Then Chaiwan asks who the two people spying on them are. Jio quickly introduces Heiji and Tu as his friends. Chiwon jokes that it must be real nice being completely unemployed and still having loyal friends around. The girl defends Jio, saying he has been through a whole lot lately. Tu chimes in, adding that Chiwon knows absolutely nothing about it. Jio tries to calm things down. He assures them Chiwon is a good person and they really do not need to be so tense. Here is where the truth drops. Chiwon asks to start over since Jio claims he never ran away. Jio begins to explain that right before they tried escaping, there was a bomb in the area. The moment the cops surrounded the group, he perfectly heard the loud ticking of an explosive. Since the lab had tested explosives on him multiple times, he remembered the exact sound of a burning fuse. Those men had surrounded everyone. They were fully planning to blow up the building and bury them alive in the rubble. If that happened, the absolute strongest might survive, but the weak had zero chance. That is exactly why he grabbed as many explosives as he could possibly carry and ran. He kept running until the huge explosion happened. Jio still does not know if it was because of the blast, but he woke up completely lost in the middle of a random forest. When he woke up, he rushed right back to the place. But no one was there anymore, so he figured everyone managed to escape safely. Chiwon quietly mentions he remembers hearing the sound of a blast. He asks if Jio really took all those bombs away. Putting a hand to his face, Chiwon seriously wonders if he should believe this story. Jio admits it sounds totally crazy but swears it is the truth. It completely tracks, especially since there were so many bombs and time was basically zero. Chaiwan actually breaks down crying, telling Jio he believes him. Our protagonist is totally baffled by this response. Then Chaiwan whips up a burger, claiming he always knew things would end up like this. Jio asks if the meal is entirely for him. Chaiwan replies he heard about his rough patch making this juicy burger a free gift on the house. Right on cue, a group of girls shows up begging for a photo with Chaiwan. He absolutely poses for it, leaving poor Jio standing awkwardly in the background of their shot. Chaiwan turns back and apologizes to Jio. He feels awful for almost slicing him up earlier, though Jio brushes it off, pointing out it did not even hurt anyway. Jio praises the amazing food and jokes that he seriously envies anyone eating this stuff daily. Chaiwan tells him he only has to ask if he ever wants seconds. After all, this guy is actually the official manager of the entire diner. Jio gets totally hyped, commenting how Chaiwan seems completely normal now. Chaiwan brags that fitting in was easy. He tells Jio that a normal life is totally possible for him too, offering him a job right there. He even promises to use his shiny managerial authority to secure a salary bonus, but Jio stops him for a second. He points out that they just crossed paths at the exact spot the broker was at, and he straight up asks why Chaiwan is helping them. Jio throws it right in his face. Those scumbags threw them into that hellish lab. He demands to know how his friend could ever ally with absolute garbage like that. Chaiwan immediately defends himself, claiming it was all a fake act. Scratching his head, he explains he is just pretending to be a shady broker. The big plan is to lure in the mutant kidnappers and completely wipe them out. Jio asks if he is actually serious, and Chaiwan confirms he is entirely serious. Our protagonist lets out a heavy sigh of absolute relief. So Chaiwan works normal shifts by day and hunts brokers by night, insisting someone has to do the dirty work. Jio thinks this hidden vigilante attitude is incredibly cool. After all, Chaiwan is genuinely doing his best to fix things. Jio feels super happy hearing this and promises to help out anytime his friend needs a hand. Ultimately, Jio only went there to track down his missing friends. Chaiwan acts pretty surprised by this news. He then openly admits he could use some backup. He explains he needs to hunt a specific broker down, and having Jio there would make things way easier. If they corner this guy, they might locate the others. He extends a fist bump, saying the extra muscle is super welcome. Jio agrees to back him up all the way. The two finally say goodbye as the shift ends. Jio returns and thanks Taegu and Haiji for letting him catch up. Taegu immediately questions if that guy is actually a friend. He could totally be playing him. Haiji totally agrees. She admits she was completely terrified when he called himself a broker. Our boy Jio assures them everything is totally fine. After all, Chaiwan has not changed one bit. Haiji asks how he plans to stay in touch without a phone of his own. But Jio just smirks and holds up the exact phone that used to belong to Youngchul. Now check this out. Somewhere else, a terrified guy runs for his life. Shouting thugs try to corner him, but he glances back and shoots liquid from his finger. He sprays the weird liquid backward. The thugs instantly start slipping and face-planting right onto the dirt. The young runaway brags that his move was pretty slick, but another guy immediately punches his face. The thug demands to know where he thinks he is going. The cornered mutant begs for mercy, swearing his power is completely useless since he only shoots slippery oil. The man aggressively grabs his hair, questioning his true mutant status. Another thug laughs, pointing out that some mutants are weak trash no better than regular humans. But the first guy just grins. It is still easy money at 1 billion per head. The young man completely panics, but then Chaiwan suddenly appears. Chaewon drops a hand on his shoulder, asking if 1 billion is really all he is worth. The confused thug demands to know who this guy is, but his arm is instantly sliced clean off. Chaewon coldly jokes that they should charge way more for risking their useless lives here. The remaining guys charge forward, screaming to take him down. Chaewon calmly announces he is ending this right now, and then he just vanishes. He reappears a second later, having already sliced every single one of them apart. Next target. The final thug points a gun dead at him. Chaewon casually asks if he actually knows anything at all, noting that his little weapon is made entirely out of metal. Using that fact, he triggers his sword hard ability. The gun trigger locks up completely right as the desperate thug tries to pull it. The guy freaks out, wondering what the hell just happened. Turns out several tiny sharp blades just rapidly formed inside the actual gun. They savagely pierce through his hand all at once. He yanks his bleeding fingers away, completely defenseless before Chaewon. The thug drops to the dirt while Chaewon gives a cold warning about avoiding metal places. The rescued oil mutant on the ground frantically thanks him for the save. He babbles about being a fellow mutant too, crying that he thought he was completely dead until Chaewon arrived. But Chaewon just coldly tells him to shut his mouth. Chaewon dials up the boss, reporting the mutant is fully secured. He confirms this guy can be shipped straight to the lab right now. The extremely confused mutant tries asking what that means, but immediately gets knocked out completely cold. A second later, Chaewon mutters that the idiot talked way too much. Plot twist: Chaewon is actually a real broker selling these mutants off. The boss notes that this is exactly what he expects from Chaewon. His power level is totally different from those average lab rats. Then Chaewon drops the real bombshell. He just found Kim Jio, the kid carrying the actual Heart of Resurrection. Absolute shock. The guy on the phone is left entirely speechless by this wild update. Chaewon casually reminds him about the blank check reward for bringing in the target, asking if that deal is still valid. The boss instantly says yes. Chaewon promises to deliver the prize by tomorrow. Later at his apartment, he just quietly chops up some carrots. While prepping food, he plots out his trap for Kim Jio. Luring him in should be ridiculously easy since the guy completely trusts him. Now here is the wild part: Jio is way too insanely strong. He is not that scrawny kid anymore. His regeneration is completely broken. Basic attacks simply will not work. So he really needs to secure a location packed with heavy metal. A little while later, he calls out that the curry is done. A girl in a wheelchair happily cheers, calling her big brother the absolute best. Chaewon mentions he threw in extra potatoes just for Chan. She gets super excited and thanks him. He gently pats her head, telling her to ask for whatever else she needs. Chan begs him to sit down and eat together, but Chaewon explains he simply cannot today. He has to head right back out. Chan gets quite upset, asking if he is actually being serious right now. Chan heads out the door, telling her to start eating without him, but to definitely save him a plate. Meanwhile, night falls on another city apartment. Over there, Heiji peels an orange, realizing Jio had a seriously exhausting day. After all that action, she knows he has to be entirely wiped out. Remembering that meat and fresh fruit are perfect for boosting stamina, she decides to whip up something special. Pure chaos. She piles up a bizarre mountain of tangerines and strawberries. If the artificial intelligence said this flavor combo works, then it absolutely has to be delicious. Looking at it, she admits she could have never survived without his help, and honestly starts believing she might be a total culinary genius. Just then, her sister Hyen walks in and asks if she already ate. They immediately start arguing, and Hyen gives this brutally disgusted look at that weird food pile. Heiji calls her sister insane, claiming she knows absolutely nothing about real cooking. Adding that their other sister will be out until tomorrow morning, she tells her to just go sleep. Over with Jio, he insists he is perfectly fine just waiting on Chaewon's call. Heiji asks if he is honestly that happy about finally reuniting with his old buddy. He nods enthusiastically. He missed the guy so much. She points out that while they just met, she has never seen him look this completely relaxed. Jio explains that Chaewon is a deeply important person in his life. He flashes back to the past when his friend woke him up, asking why he was spacing out. In the flashback, Jio looks away, feeling a little embarrassed. He softly answers that he was just sitting there alone. But right then, Chaewon notices something wrong and demands to know where his arm went. Jio explains he lost the limb during an experiment a few days ago, and it simply has not grown back yet. Chaewon waves it off, calling a missing arm just a tiny detail. Then he holds out his hand, telling Jio to grab onto it tight. Right then, he triggers a massive power transformation. He literally forges a massive blade right onto Jio's missing arm. The kid asks what this is, and Chaewon just grins, saying it looks incredibly cool. Yuna asks if he is mocking Jio again. Chaewon insists he made the arm amazing, while Jio just stares in awe at his new sword limb. Finding this bizarre situation genuinely amusing, he just laughs. Yuna seriously wonders if both guys have completely lost their minds. Chaewon extends his fist outward, praising his buddy for having great taste. The protagonist stares blankly, asking what that hand gesture is even supposed to mean. He explains how true friends bump fists to show absolute trust. The protagonist copies him, suddenly realizing this is how real friends act. Back in the present, Jio smiles, remembering how Chiwon used to follow him absolutely everywhere. Haiji says she completely understands the whole situation. Feeling genuinely glad that he found such a solid friend, she happily tells him to dig in, promising the food is absolutely perfect. So today's dinner is supposed to be sweet and sour galbajim. Jio looks horrified, asking what is actually on the plate. Hiji proudly calls it her special signature recipe. This cursed dish mixes strawberries with tangerines, and you have to admit he has never seen anything like this bizarre abomination. He bravely brings a bite of that weird food to his mouth. Heji nervously asks how it tastes. The protagonist literally cries, declaring the meal is absolutely incredible. Swallowing the unholy mix of fruit and meat, he turns and asks if the dog Twigim wants to try a quick bite. Nope. In response, the little dog makes a face of pure disgust. Haiji claims the puppy definitely wants some, but just has to wait while Twigim shakes her head in firm, hard denial. Jio calls it the best thing he has ever tasted, and thanks her. Heiji tells him to leave the cooking to her, promising to make meals way more often. The protagonist honestly thanks her from the bottom of his heart. Out of nowhere, his phone starts vibrating on the table. It is Chiwon calling again, but this time he frantically begs Jio to come save him. Jio asks what exactly went wrong, and his buddy admits he was tracking those laboratory creeps. Things just spiraled way out of control. Jio struggles to process it all, but Hei steps up, pointing out this is the exact same hellhole he was locked in before. Jaewon begs him to come over for backup, and Jio agrees without hesitation. The guy forwards his exact coordinates. Jio steps up, declaring he has to bounce right now to pull his best friend out of the fire. He tells her the meal is amazing, but he just cannot finish it today, even with all the hard work she put in. He warns Hai to stay put. This place is way too risky for her to tag along. Cut straight to the pitch black inside of a massive steel warehouse. Jio steps inside, wondering if he somehow got the wrong address. The dead silence completely creeps him out since Jaewon sent these specific coordinates. Jio starts scanning the area closely. Every single corner is coated in thick metal. The pipes, the huge plates, even the ground itself, all forged from solid iron. But wait, look at this setup. It is the absolute perfect battlefield for J1. Jio cannot figure out how he lost because logically, that makes zero sense. He knows he has to stay sharp. Getting dragged off himself is simply not an option. He pictures Jaewon already caught, locked up in some corner, completely paralyzed by fear. Meanwhile, from somewhere deeper inside, his buddy places a hand flat against the floor. Instantly, huge metal blades erupt upwards. They launch straight at our hero, looking like they impale him in one brutal strike. Jio completely panics at the ambush, barely twisting away from another massive spike just in time. He stares at the deadly steel, utterly confused, wondering what the actual hell is going on. Jaewon casually thanks him for dropping by. Jio yells out, "What are you doing? I thought you were hostage." Jaewon just shrugs, saying things are exactly as they appear. It finally clicks for Jio, and his old friend freely admits the whole trap. Jio is forced to deflect a blade barehanded. He scrambles away from another vicious thrust, but Jaewon is already sprinting right at him. The kid somehow dodges that one too, but Jaewon spots an opening and delivers a brutal kick. The sheer force launches him backward. Jio actually coughs up blood from the impact, flying dangerously close to a wall of jagged iron spikes. Jaewon stares at him deadpan. He mentions he was genuinely glad to see him. He spent 7 long years looking at a literal skeleton, so seeing flesh is weird, but he recognized Jio strictly by his annoying voice. All the old memories of them laughing and hanging out rushed right back, and that is the exact reason he decided to lie. He officially reintroduces himself as a mutant broker. His new job is hunting core subjects and shipping them straight to the lab, and he is only here to hand Jio right back to them. Jaewon slaps a palm against the wall. A massive blade violently shoots out behind Jio. He barely twists out of the way, but Jaewon is already closing the gap, weapon raised. Jio realizes his old friend has completely changed. Bringing him in alive is clearly off the table now. The guy is absolutely going for the kill. Desperate, Jio snatches a thick steel plate off the floor to use as a shield. He refuses to accept his best friend as backstabbing him like this, screaming at him to snap out of it and explain the joke. They need to sit down and talk, but Jaewon presses a hand to the metal. No more talking. Razor-sharp blades immediately explode outward from the plate. Jio curses the utter scumbags standing in front of him. He desperately rolls backwards, shouting to ask if his friend has gone completely insane. He yells that the lab is run by literal criminals who will never play fair, begging his friend to stop being an idiot and face reality. Mid-sentence, Jio punts 2 chunks of scrap iron right at him, but Jaewon just stares back with dead cold eyes. He casually bats the shrapnel away like flies. Trapped Jio starts muttering to himself, frantically scanning the room for an out. He immediately breaks into a sprint, fully realizing a head-on clash is absolute suicide. Jaewon just pats the floor coldly, stating that running away is completely useless. A massive cluster of blades violently erupts upward. This entire warehouse is basically one giant weapon. He confidently declares escape is impossible, all while Jio barely sidesteps another lethal spike. Jio realizes this whole reunion was a setup from minute one. The guy really plans to drag him kicking and screaming back to those sick scientists. Furious, Jio screams for a real reason, asking how he could stomach tossing his own friend back into a literal living hell. Jaewon flashes right behind him. He seriously could not care less. Jio finally accepts the truth, warning him the kid gloves are coming off as he winds up. In response, the traitor rapidly shifts his attack angle. Jio still takes a pretty nasty slash, but Jaewon leaves himself totally wide open right after. A devastating right hook connects directly with his jaw. He stumbles back, completely stunned. That sword strike barely leaves a scratch on him. Then Chiwon remembers years of being a human lab rat drastically cranked up Jio's physical endurance. His regeneration speed is absolutely absurd. He heals the second the blade hits, using that tiny window to launch a counterattack. So Chiwon rushes in for another heavy slash. He unleashes a savage barrage of strikes, refusing to let his opponent breathe. The whole plan is to shut down any counterattacks during that healing window. Both guys keep dead serious looks in this brutal fight. Flashback time. Jio sits chained up inside a cold cell. The heavy weights binding his arms and legs finally release. And honestly, this lab is pure evil. The scientists announce a test on his resurrection heart's healing response. The heavy doors slide open, revealing Chiwon standing right there. Jio looks completely confused and asks what is happening. A researcher explains they want to observe regeneration against sword heart abilities. Because of this twisted goal, Chiwon is ordered to attack with full force. The boy asks if these guys have totally lost it. He tells them to drop this nonsense firmly, warning he refuses to fight as he turns away. But the collar around his neck suddenly unleashes severe electric shocks. Jio sees his friend suffering and begs him to stop holding back. He says just attack, he will be fine. Chiwon calls him crazy, shouting that he cannot hurt a friend. Jio tries calming him down, promising it will not even hurt, but Chiwon fires back that he would rather die than do this. So Jio completely switches tactics and starts taunting him. He calls his friend a weakling, demanding he obey the scientists. Chiwon just freezes at those words. Jio keeps pushing, claiming his only talent is cutting things and that his power is absolute trash compared to everyone else. That strikes a massive blow to Chiwon's pride. Jio tells him to quit wasting time and just attack him already. In that exact moment, Chiwon materializes a glowing blade. He charges with everything he has, landing a clean slash right across his friend's chest. Jio feels the brutal blow and wonders if he went slightly too far with those taunts. Chiwon relentlessly keeps attacking, angrily asking if that still feels weak. Jio fights through the blinding pain, claiming it does not hurt at all. Chiwon ends the wild combo with one deep slash. This successfully wraps up the twisted regeneration test. Chiwon stands totally frozen, panting heavily after letting all his rage loose. Jio thinks it hurts like crazy, yet he realizes the pain is actually less than he expected. Chiwon whispers to keep pretending, knowing the researchers will not notice anything through all that blood. Jio suddenly asks if he sliced his own arm. Chiwon confirms it, telling him to stay quiet before those guys notice. Jio argues he did not need to do that since he heals anyway, but Chiwon knows his regeneration is actually quite slow. He heard the lab starves him of blood just to suppress those healing powers. He tells Jio to quit looking at him with pity. Real friends do not do that. Back in the brutal present, the blood-soaked fight continues. Jio wonders why he turned out like this, especially since he used to be a good guy. He plants his foot firmly on the ground, charging forward to throw a massive punch right at Chiwon. The young man does not even have time to react, but then he realizes the strike completely stopped. He thinks this is totally impossible. Even after taking a painful cut, Jio still looks at him with those same eyes. Chiwon grinds his teeth in pure frustration. Immediately after, Jio takes a heavy slash to the chest. He braces himself against the solid ground and quickly begins to run away from the fight. Chiwon shouts that this is all a joke. You have to see how messed up this is getting. He tells Jio to give up, threatening to hand him to the lab or worse, turn on Heiji and Taeyu. He warns he will hunt their friends down first. Jio just lets the man slice his wrist open. Crimson blood starts dripping onto the cold floor. Chiwon says they are finally making eye contact, realizing those friends truly mean everything to Jio. He claims tracking down students is way too easy, warning that if Jio runs, his friends take the fall. But Jio violently shoves his bleeding hand straight into the man's mouth. He cuts the inside of Chiwon's mouth, warning him never to cross that line. Jio firmly reminds him that Heiji and Taeyu are his friends too. He wants to hear out everything this guy has to say until the bitter end, simply because they are friends. Jio's heart starts pounding wildly. He warns that he honestly no longer cares about his hidden motives. Chiwon suddenly realizes the boy cut his mouth just to absorb the blood. The blood violently rushes toward Jio, flowing straight through his vessels and perfectly forming his hand all over again. Chiwon completely fails to grasp how the arm he just cut is back. The boy immediately lands a massive punch right on his jaw. Chi-Wan gets launched backward. He violently coughs up blood from the sheer impact. The man feels like 3 ribs just snapped, even with his iron-reinforced body that was supposedly built to withstand these exact blows. But he knows one more hit means game over. Jio steps in and lands another devastating strike right away. Chi-Wan goes flying across the room once again. He slams hard into a massive pile of scrap metal. Only one thought remains: Jio is moving way too fast and there is no time to react. The protagonist lands another incredibly heavy blow. Chi-Wan cannot figure out where all this power is suddenly coming from. Did drinking his blood actually make him this strong? In response, he creates a massive barrage of blades, needing to make some distance and somehow take control of the fight again. But Jio easily dodges every single one of them. Chi-Wan grows totally confused. Does the guy know where the blades are coming from? Then it hits him: pure dodging instinct. His reaction speed is absolutely absurd. Kim Jio has an ability that goes far beyond that resurrection heart. Regeneration is definitely not his only trick. His strength and reflexes are nothing like his skeleton days. He is on another level entirely. Knowing he will lose the fight like this, Chi-Wan intentionally touches the bare ground. He absorbs the ambient metal, complaining that he never wanted to resort to this trick. He sucks iron particles to his absolute limit, completely destroying his veins and organs in the process. To compensate, the sword heart reacts in a highly violent manner. Like an explosion, multiple blades sprout from everywhere. His body becomes a focal point surrounded by thousands of cutting edges. He screams out that no matter his healing speed, the guy can never dodge this much metal at once. But Kim Jio could not care less. He charges forward with everything he has, aiming straight for his opponent. He lands a brutal strike, even with blades slicing into his own body. Chi-Wan takes the full impact of the hit. He immediately coughs up a massive amount of blood. The protagonist tells him this kind of superficial cut means absolutely nothing at all. Having his flesh torn is something he can easily endure all day. What really hurts is seeing his friend in this pathetic state. Jio starts beating him repeatedly without pausing for a single breath. The sheer impact shatters every blade to pieces. His face is practically destroyed by the punches. The protagonist absolutely refuses to stop hitting him. He violently smashes his former friend right into the ground, saying the actual betrayal is what really hurts. Surrounding metal twists from the pure force of the impact. Jio claims the pain goes way beyond those cheap blades. Knowing a friend of 10 years tried to send him back to hell is what weighs on him. That is what slowly kills him inside. He angrily demands to know the reason for this total nonsense. He still cannot understand and demands to know what those bastards promised him. He knows full well what a living nightmare that place really is. Chi-Wan struggles to even open his mouth. He asks what the point of talking about this is at this stage of the game. He admits he worked for the lab and tried to sell him out to the group. He firmly states they can never be friends again. Jio grits his teeth in pure rage hearing this confession. He lands another full-force punch directly to his battered face. Grabbing the guy right by the collar, he asks what the hell he is talking about. He warns him he does not have the right to decide this all alone, and especially not try to run away by saying everything is over. A real reason is demanded so he can at least try to understand. He needed to offer an excuse if he ever considered him a true friend. Then vivid memories start rushing back. The old times they playfully grabbed each other by the arms, or the fights they had. Even the moments they celebrated together. They shared some really good times. Chi-Wan just apologizes and claims no reason. Watch closely now. Several soldiers suddenly start storming the place. Jio is completely terrified. Hundreds of armed soldiers rush right toward them. Jio demands to know who is out there. He covers his face with his arm against the harsh light, but the men already have their weapons ready to fire. They have entirely cornered them both. A soldier reports on the radio about finding the mutants and immediately calls for backup inside the factory. The protagonist thinks this cannot be happening. Back when he organized the escape, soldiers received orders to attack on sight. After all, he is the key piece to everything. They keep shooting to kill while trying to take him away. Jio totally panics. He knows he has to escape right now. So he grabs a piece of metal pipe. He throws the pipe with all his might, hitting dead center toward one of the officers. Then he sprints in the opposite direction. But nearing a door, the protagonist suddenly freezes, having no idea what to do. More men are already waiting. They have surrounded both sides and completely cut off the escape route. Jio falls into absolute despair. He is totally boxed in with nowhere left to run. An officer named Jinuk radios in reporting 2 mutants on site and orders everyone to hold position while he alerts headquarters. Jinuk orders Team A to block the exits and Team B to advance. Meanwhile, Jio realizes that if he gets caught right here, it is completely game over. He would end up straight back in that awful laboratory. Jinuk announces they can open fire when ready, but out of nowhere, a hand reaches out and grabs his radio. A girl violently snatches the radio right out of the officer's hand. She announces she is Hein from the Mutant Task Force, and she is officially taking command of this operation. Jinuk is utterly shocked by this interruption. All the officers just stare at her in total confusion. She orders every single person to lower their weapons immediately, and then she slowly walks right over to Jio. She stares at him and asks if his name is Jio. She tells him to stay calm, explaining she came to help because her sister already told her everything. She explains that she is actually Hei's older sister, introducing herself to him right on the spot. Jio still hesitates, totally unsure if he can actually trust this random girl. Hein declares the coast is clear and turns around asking if the officers are only here for the incident. She demands they restrict civilian access and immediately call the paramedics. Jinook yells at her to hold up a minute. Does the Special Mutant Task Force just ignore basic field protocols now? His team received the report first and secured the scene, so she should absolutely know the law regarding duty execution. Another secretary chimes in stating this is an exception. When dealing with wanted mutants, their task force gets absolute priority. They have the warrant and investigation data on Li Qiwan. Jinu quickly fires back, claiming there is a massive misunderstanding here. He is not talking about that guy, but rather the kid wearing the black shirt. Camera footage proved he is an unregistered mutant. Unregistered mutants are technically treated as civilians, meaning they fall strictly under his jurisdiction. In response, every soldier aims their weapon. They order the immediate detainment of this unregistered kid. Jio wonders what to do, but watch this crazy move. Hein snaps her fingers, painting the weapons with pink lines before they completely shatter in seconds. Everyone stands there wondering what just happened. They quickly realize it is the team leader's bizarre ability. Hein tells him he is completely failing to understand the situation. Jinook yells that she just attacked her own allies, but she simply snaps her fingers again. Instantly, the man falls to his knees in absolutely unbearable pain. The guy screams right in front of her. Hein coldly states this is a special investigation tied to the Hermes laboratory, and nothing else matters more than that. Jinook is completely stunned by this new information. The girl aggressively orders him to look around. The area is covered in traces of battle. Jinook considers the terrifying possibility involving those kids. They are the high-risk mutants Hermes has been actively researching. Getting involved with them means risking his own life with no easy escape, so he immediately tells his men to hand over full control to her. The police grab Li Qiwan and leave him completely immobilized. Jio quickly asks where they are taking him. The secretary explains he is a wanted criminal, so the formal arrest procedure must happen before any real investigation begins. Jio wonders if the guy really did something that horrible. Meanwhile, the secretary says they need Kim Jio to give a full statement too. He has to do a private interview with the team leader requiring full cooperation. Jio absolutely dreads being stuck in a room with that scary woman. Later at the police station, she just stares at Jio with crazy excitement. Jio finds this super intimidating and asks why she keeps staring at him like a weirdo. She tells him to relax, explaining she just needs to ask a few simple questions. They are currently hunting down the Hermes laboratory. She heard from Hei that he was held prisoner there and somehow managed to escape 3 years ago. So he is clearly still a wanted man. But get ready for this dark twist, his friends have already been recaptured by the laboratory. It is highly likely they never actually escaped at all. The laboratory let them go on purpose, just to hunt them down again and inflict pure crushing despair. After recapturing them, they weaponized their personal weaknesses to force total submission or lured them with fake promises to commit major crimes. Jio questions if Li Qiwan did all this too. She reveals the guy has not spoken a single word, so everything they know comes strictly from his written records. The secretary steps in announcing the witness arrived voluntarily. Jio stares at the newcomer, trying to recognize her. Chaeyin introduces herself, noting that the officers already explained everything outside. Hein crouches down, clarifying she has zero intention of pushing too hard. She simply needs to know exactly what the girl's brother saw and why he acted. Chaeyin hesitates to open up, but finally admits this is entirely her fault. Her brother was never normally like that. She was absolutely terrified of losing him if she spoke up. Hein firmly warns her that staying silent will only make this terrible situation way worse. Her brother will end up taking the fall for everything completely alone. The girl wipes her face and finally agrees. She knows she cannot just let him carry this massive burden entirely alone. Her brother finally came back 3 years ago. The second he busted out of that lab, he rushed straight home to his family. But there was a harsh reality waiting. Their parents had already died. She was left behind dealing with severe disabilities and awful complications from an accident. She completely lost her independence. Chaeyin could barely even process the nightmare in front of him. He holds the girl tight, promising to protect her forever. Chaeyin grinded day and night without a single break. But get this, lacking a legal identity meant money stayed tight and every paycheck went straight to her medical bills. Then one day the lab finally tracked him down. The girl screams out for her brother. Chaeyin warns them to take their filthy hands off her, threatening to kill every last one of them. But a guy casually points out it has been a while since they last met. The guy claims they are absolutely not here to drag him back. They drop the whole prison plan, offering him a brand new identity with a stable job and serious cash. In exchange, he just has to help with their little projects. The lab totally funded their lives, demanding absolute silence about the job. He kept his mouth shut, but she feels completely sick with guilt knowing he committed actual crimes for her. She keeps repeating that it was all her fault and apologizes. Jio tries calming her down, reminding her that he did it all to keep her safe. The girl is escorted right out of the room. Hein finishes up the story, but she makes sure to clarify one brutal detail. Even if his ultimate goal was protecting his sister, the cold, hard fact remains he actively tried handing his own friend over to the lab. If everything actually went according to plan, Jio would be rotting in that cage today. The protagonist completely agrees. Hein warns him that Chaewon will definitely face punishment for his long list of crimes. She asks if Jio wants to make one final call before the hammer falls. Jio stares at the phone, totally caught off guard. He decides to just go for it. He dials the number and stands there waiting for the pickup. When the line connects, he casually mentions he knows Chaewon is listening. He tells him he heard the entire story. He knows exactly what went down after the lab and totally understands why he was sold out. He just really wants to know why the guy never breathed a word about it earlier. Chaewon sighs on the other end, completely speechless. That dead silence makes the protagonist even angrier. He demands the guy actually say something. He calls Chaewon a treacherous bastard. He yells that his friend should have at least tried making up an excuse. Staying quiet out of pure shame is just pathetic. He literally tried selling out his closest friend and dragging him straight back to hell. Jio calls him utter trash. He tells him to spend the rest of his life rotting in deep regret. Chaewon stays totally quiet and looks away, but deep down he actually agrees. He knows this is exactly the harsh reality check he deserved. He gets ready to hang up, but Jio gives one final warning: the police will take incredibly good care of Chaewon. He makes it crystal clear that the guy is absolute garbage, but his sister is completely innocent. That is exactly why he has to pay the price. Survive this and make another burger later because that last one was seriously delicious. Chaewon finally puts the phone away. He remembers all those ridiculous arguments he had with Jio back in the day. He sighs heavily, whispering a quiet thank you. Jio sets the phone back down. Hein asks if that little speech was enough. She notes he is way more forgiving than she expected. If it were her, the payback would be 10 times worse. The protagonist admits he truly thought his friends had escaped the lab. He fully believed that despite a tough life, they would eventually find happiness. But he was totally wrong. Those absolute bastards still have his friends locked in cages. He wants to save everyone and asks for her help. Hein breaks into a warm smile. Setting the cell phone on the table, she agrees to take his help, but she has to ask if he will actually be okay. Jio replies that it hardly matters anymore, since he is no longer some fragile skeleton. He swears to save his friends and tear that entire laboratory to shreds. Later, at her own house, Hein practically sprints toward her sister. She tackles the girl with a massive hug, saying she missed her terribly after days apart. Heejin begs her to stop, but Hein just calls her completely adorable. The girl complains she should have taken a shower the second she walked in. Jio watches the scene unfold, realizing she is a totally different person at home. He used to think she was absolutely terrifying, but around Heejin, she is honestly the sweetest person in the entire world. The girl asks if Jio is doing all right, mentioning she heard he had some serious drama with a close friend. Jio scratches his head awkwardly, replying that everything is totally fine now since her badass sister handled the situation. Heejin calls that a huge relief, immediately asking if he wants a fresh plate of the dish he missed out on earlier. Hein finds the sudden topic pretty strange, but her sister points out she has not eaten anything yet. She insists Hein just has to try this sweet and sour recipe she texted her. Hein looks completely confused, asking if she was actually serious about that. She demands to know what crazy bastard gave her the idea to cook that disaster. The girl casually replies that an artificial intelligence gave her the exact cooking time and detailed recipe. Hein gets totally indignant, wondering if that miserable machine was openly mocking a human. The two immediately start arguing over whether the final result is actually edible. Heejin guiltily confesses she tweaked the recipe just a bit. Haiji mentions the machine recommended vitamin C for fatigue, wanting to see her older sister energized. That phrase just keeps pounding right inside Hain's head. She fully expects a massive stomach ache from this mess, but she figures you never really know how food tastes until you take a bite. She tosses it straight into her mouth and claims it tastes delicious before even swallowing. Heiji eagerly asks if it actually tastes good. Holding the food in her mouth, Hain replies that it is just a mix of everything tasty. The younger girl celebrates her happy result. Surprisingly, Jio completely agrees that the dish is extremely tasty. He says it is so good he could eat it every single day. He claims the meat and fruit seem to dance in his mouth. Hain seriously wonders if the boys' taste buds just failed to regenerate. After finishing the food, Hain says they need to clear something up before doing anything else. First priority, sorting out Jio's current living situation. She explains she only let him inside due to the emergency. Having an adult man living with two women sets a terrible example for her sister. Haiji reminds her he is currently being hunted down. She asks where else he could possibly stay. Hain considered leaving him at headquarters, but keeping his identity totally secret remains the safest option. She quickly grabs her phone and makes a call. She asks if any open rooms exist at the official residence. The answer on the other end of the line is a flat no. She announces the rooms are completely full, so a spot will take some time to open up. Since this is strictly a temporary situation, she allows him to stay with them for now. Haiji immediately celebrates the decision. In response, Hain starts writing on a paper while Jio watches completely lost. She slams the paper down hard on the table. She states that in exchange his only designated space is the living room. Watch how fast she locks this down. He is strictly forbidden from entering her sister's bedroom. Even for a short stay, that paper is his crystal clear list of boundaries. She warns him right away. Breaking these rules will bring consequences far worse than he can ever imagine. That rule goes double if he ever steps near Haiji's room. He will find out the hard way exactly what happens to those who dare cross that line. Jio agrees to all the terms. Haiji comments that her sister went completely overboard with these rules. Hain shuts down the housing discussion immediately and calls him outside for a talk. The protagonist asks where they are heading. She plainly explains that she needs to test the full extent of his mutation. Since it is early and nobody is around, the empty location serves its purpose perfectly. She reminds him of his goal to help destroy the laboratory. To achieve that, she needs to know exactly what his abilities really are. Jio explains his body rapidly regenerates from injuries relying completely on blood. If he absorbs enough, the healing is almost infinite. But his power plummets the second his blood supply runs dry. She is absolutely certain regeneration is not his only power. She watched his fight earlier. She noticed brutal damage that only someone with totally absurd physical strength could ever inflict. The protagonist admits he has always been like this. He firmly believes his modified heart makes his body vastly stronger than any normal human. The girl fires right back. The wild aftermath of that fight looked way beyond just strong. Jio explains he never fully regenerated back at the laboratory. He only realized his true strength after escaping, suddenly noticing he grows stronger the more blood he absorbs. Hain perfectly concludes that blood serves as both his medicine and his raw fuel. She then turns her back to him and tosses a grip strength meter right into his hands. She orders him to squeeze the device with every single ounce of strength he has. Jio actually remembers seeing an identical device back at the laboratory. He grips the meter, unsure if this is really the right way to use it. He channels all his raw strength into his arm. He forces the blood flow directly into his hand. Pouring every drop of his energy into the crushing grip, the immense pressure becomes too much. He snaps the heavy device clean in half. Hain stands there, completely shocked. This kid is unreal. She tells him that meter was built to withstand 500 kilos of raw pressure. She quickly realizes the boy packs more physical power than an adult gorilla. Jio nervously apologizes for the destruction. He admits he had absolutely no idea he was that strong, blaming the blood he drank earlier. She openly admits he is far more dangerous than she ever imagined. In that exact instant, several rocks suddenly launch up into the air. The protagonist watches the bizarre scene completely lost before the stones shoot directly toward him. Jio manages to dodge the sudden attacks with extreme ease, but one rogue stone catches him completely off guard, slamming directly right into his head. She randomly controlled the trajectory. Dodging even one or two is already impressive. With that high level of physical skill, he could only be a very high-grade mutant. Jio comments that the stones moved as if they had a life of their own. He asks if her mutation is actually some kind of superpower. Hain gives him this really weird look. She tells him to stop acting like a total idiot. Mutations are still completely science fiction to the public. Her own mutation is a state secret. She absolutely cannot say a word. But she warns him to hide his cards too. No revealing he is a mutant. Honestly, he should already know this way better than she does. Jio completely agrees with her. Ever since getting his human body back, he has been flashing his powers around without a single thought about the fallout. Right on cue, Hiji shows up and waves them down. She mentions she brought drinks for the two of them, and Jio practically vibrates with pure joy. Hain smiles at this. It is pretty funny seeing him act like just some normal kid. She quickly fakes a work call and steps away. Jio takes a big sip of the soda and Hiji asks how it tastes. He instantly shoots back that it is incredibly delicious. The sugar rush is so sweet it basically lights up his brain. It flips a switch in his head and Hiji breathes a sigh of relief, really glad he enjoys it. Jio tastes something super familiar. He flashes back to Chiwan handing him a burger. He realizes he drank this exact same soda back then. Hiji catches his reaction and asks what is wrong. Jio quickly plays it off as nothing, but she is clearly a little confused by his sudden shift. He explains he just thought of an old friend for a second and the rest of his crew. They were a really tight group. She points out how obvious it is that he cares about his friends. Jio simply replies that they are basically family to him. Life inside that laboratory was an absolute nightmare, but those small moments with his friends saved his sanity. They made him forget so much of the pain. Those guys were the only reason he stayed alive and kept breathing right in the middle of literal hell. He wanted all of them to escape together and finally be happy, but he ended up being the only one who made it out. His friends are still trapped inside that lab with zero way out. That is exactly why he plans to go back and save his crew, even if it means clashing head-on with the organization and burning the entire lab to the ground. Hiji stares at him, not fully grasping the weight of it. She admits she is no mutant and has no powers, but she really wants to help however she can. He just has to give the word and she is all in. Jio is caught off guard by her support but ends up smiling. Fast forward a few days now, they are at school. All the girls are gossiping about the new transfer student scheming to grab his social media. Jio cannot believe this is actually happening right now. His heart is practically beating out of his chest, wondering if he can actually pull this off and fit in. He has barely even processed this wild situation yet. Ham promised him that getting into this specific school meant a chance to reunite with a ghost from his past. Jio takes a massive breath, just trying to accept that he actually made it. He completely freezes up. The butterflies in his stomach are so bad he feels like he might throw up. Meanwhile, the girls are whispering about how cute he is while the guys are already placing bets on whether he is any good at sports. Jio feels every single pair of eyes locking onto him. But watch closely, earlier Hyan gave him his very first mission. She spent days planning this out and decided this was step 1. That is when Jio pulled a fresh uniform right out of the bag. Hiji instantly recognized it as her own school uniform. Hyan explained that starting tomorrow he would be studying right alongside Hiji to pull off this mission. A radio announcement echoes across the courtyard and every single student starts heading that way. They start bombarding Jio with a million random questions and the poor guy feels totally suffocated by the crowd. Hyan warned him he does not act like a normal human, he desperately needs to learn how to blend in for the investigation. He has to act like your average ordinary guy. Jio drills it into his own brain, nobody can ever suspect he is a mutant, but he just freezes up completely clueless in front of the whole class. He genuinely thinks they already figured out his secret. But right then, Taegu slams a heavy hand on the desk and orders everyone to back off. He yells at the crowd, saying they are being way too loud and scaring the new kid. Taegu jumps in, explaining Jio is from a neighboring town and avoids social media entirely. He casually adds that Jio quit video games and is an absolute beast at sports. Jio feels massive relief seeing Taegu cover for him. The big guy straight up lies to the class, claiming they are old childhood friends. He shoos everyone away, saying they need to catch up after being apart so long. Jio quietly thanks him for the save. Taegu whispers that Hiji already explained the whole situation. He knows Jio needs to pass as a completely normal student. He guarantees he knows this school inside and out. Jio can ask him literally anything, though ironically cut to later and Taegu cannot even answer a basic question in class. The teacher roasts him hard, pointing out exams are coming up and he has not even memorized the bare basics. The teacher demands to know what bacteria caused the Black Plague and Taegu loudly complains that the guy is totally underestimating him. The big guy confidently shouts out his guess, obviously CO. The teacher just smacks him on the head, completely wrong answer. Jio actually laughs at the whole situation. Hearing that, the teacher turns around and asks why the new kid is not trying to guess. Tu thinks putting Jio on the spot like this is totally crazy, but the new kid answers without a single second of hesitation. It was the pestis bacteria. The entire room goes dead silent in pure shock. The teacher tests him again, asking about the Indian social hierarchy. Jio easily shoots back that it is the caste system. Jaws literally drop as he nails every single question perfectly. Even the teacher has to admit this is absolutely unbelievable. He has never seen a student answer this fast before. He actually tells the whole class to give the new kid a round of applause. Jio gets super embarrassed by the sudden attention. Taegu sits there confused, honestly thinking the boy was dumb. Later on, he asks how Jio actually knew all that stuff. He also really wants to know about the incident the guy mentioned earlier. Jio calmly answers that he actually has absolutely no idea. Taegu completely fails to process that response. He demands to know how someone could get everything perfectly right without knowing the subject. Jio just explains that the lab scientist let him borrow some old textbooks. He just read those books over and over again. Honestly, just thinking about making real friends at school made him incredibly happy. Hearing that, Tiu starts completely sobbing out of pure pity. Poor kid memorized entire books just because he had absolutely nothing else to do. Tu wonders just how painfully difficult his past life actually was. Next up is physical education. Taegu steps up, promising to show him something way more fun than reading. They head straight to the middle of the school court. The teacher announces today is all about dodgeball. Since it is a joint class, they split up into 2 teams. Taegu immediately calls Class 1 a bunch of losers, and the kids from Class 2 fire right back. Jio genuinely asks what dodgeball even is. Taegu quickly explains the basics. Just throw the ball from your zone and dodge any attacks aimed right at you. He tells Jio not to worry and just trust his lead. But a split second later, a ball slams directly into his face. The students from Class 2 instantly burst out laughing at him. Tiu tries to play it off, claiming that hit barely tickled. But there is really no time to worry about him. Eventually, Jio is the only guy left standing out there. Dodgeball is not exactly his strongest suit, but the rules are pretty simple. He just needs to throw and dodge. The only catch is he has to use half his raw physical strength. He seriously tries to remind himself to hold back. Jio keeps repeating this over and over inside his head. How do you actually use just half of your power? An opponent readies a pitch and yells out to pay attention. The guy launches that ball with absolute full force. Jio watches the ball speeding right toward him. He dodges the attack with absolute ease, still trying to figure out how to perfectly control his own crazy power. He quietly mutters this to himself while effortlessly dodging every single ball they throw. You really have to see this. The whole class stares in pure shock, swearing he plays like a professional. The new kid is completely insane, dodging everything without moving his legs. He makes the entire second class look like total fools. Taegu frantically whispers for him to stop showing off. This is definitely not what he had in mind. Jio just gets confused, genuinely asking if he is doing it wrong. In that one brief moment of distraction, a ball slams straight into his face. The kid who threw it gasps for air, looking completely exhausted. Everyone panics, instantly thinking that throw was way too brutal. Jio immediately gets a bloody nose, but he just laughs it off and assures everyone he is totally fine. A friend nudges Hai. She points out how handsome the new kid is and how naturally gifted he is at sports. Hei totally agrees, noting he is adapting to this school incredibly well. The afternoon slowly passes by. Taegu asks how his first day went. He fully admits that keeping Jio's crazy secret is far from easy. Still, he reminds his friend to just ask if he ever needs anything. Jio looks down, nodding. He slowly realizes no one is actually trying to control him here. People are completely free to just say whatever they want. Even in the cafeteria, anyone can buy whatever they want as long as they have money. He confesses this entire experience still feels incredibly strange to him, but at the end of the day, he genuinely had fun. He knows he would never experience this normal life if he had not met the two of them. He deeply thanks them both for everything. Taegu immediately cuts through the heavy emotional tension. He tells Jio to stop being so sappy, there is still a lot left to teach him. Somewhere else in the city, some gangsters approach asking for news from the lab. They have absolutely no idea the merchandise got diverted. They mention only needing a few more days of pretending to be the good guys. Then the job is done. But suddenly one of them tells the others to wait. He wants to know exactly who that strange guy over there is. The young man complains they arrived early and he did not even have time to finish eating. Irritated, the gangster orders his men to get the beggar out of the way. Dong Kang struggles against these guys. He warns them he is definitely not done with his soup yet. What is wrong with this lunatic? The gangster asks. Kang just comments on his face. Why is it so hard to see? He rips the guy's sunglasses off. Much better. The gangster immediately responds with a direct, brutal punch to the face. Get lost. He warns our guy to leave while he is still playing nice before he loses his life completely. But watch this brutal reality check. The gangster completely shatters his own hand on impact. Stop whining like a baby, Kang tells him. He stands straight up. He knows they are carrying lab money and he wants to know exactly how much cash it is. His heart of rock power activates right then. Dong Kang warns them he is absolutely taking that cash as payment. Meanwhile, during a school soccer game, Jio thinks about how it has already been a full week since he started attending these classes. The leader gave him one first mission: act like a totally normal person and completely adapt to an ordinary teenage life. Honestly, he was terrified his identity would be exposed at first. That made him act super weird. Because of that, he could not enjoy anything. But everything changed. After eating with guys his own age, he realizes something huge. School is actually way more fun than he imagined. Taegu passes the ball right to him. Jio thinks about how completely unreal it is to just run and play freely again. He traps the ball on his chest, ready to kick. But he trips at the last possible second, falling totally flat on his back. The other guys mock him. They say he is absolutely terrible at this game. Now Jio truly just looks like a normal clumsy teenager. Feeling genuinely happy, he actually forgets his whole dark life as a fugitive, and it is all thanks to Hiji and Taegu. Walking home, he mentions that the chicken skewers smell absolutely incredible. It feels like that savory aroma is hitting him right in the face. They just keep walking and chatting. Taegu warns him, keep drooling like that and I will eat this entire thing myself. Jio replies that he wants to share it with a puppy. But Hiji warns him that dogs definitely cannot eat anything with so much heavy seasoning. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes nearby. We cut to Kang. He complains he is totally starving from burning up his power. There were way more gangsters than he originally expected. After fighting all night, he is totally drained. Zero strength left to even walk. He desperately needs to eat right now. That is when he spots a flower bed ahead. Reaching out, he tries grabbing it. His power turns that stuff straight into energy, but Jio suddenly pops up, completely blocking his hand. You cannot eat that. Jio tells him. Dong Kang defends himself, swearing he was not trying to eat dirt, but Jio completely ignores him. Jio seriously warns the guy. I tried doing that before, and it went horribly wrong. He claims eating plants is actually a much better idea. Heiji walks over. She says he really should not eat those either. Kang frantically explains the misunderstanding. He is definitely not some homeless guy. But then it hits him. That is exactly what they think he is. Suddenly, a super strong, delicious smell invades his nostrils. Can I have a tiny bite? He asks nicely. Jio thinks to himself, I have not even taken one bite yet. But looking at this guy is literally like seeing his past self. Just like Heiji did for him, he decides to show kindness. He offers a bite. Kang opens his mouth eagerly. Then he shamelessly devours the entire skewer right in front of our protagonist's face. Right after that, a massive burp escapes him. He sighs happily. It feels like he just came back to life. He gives thanks for the meal. Meanwhile, Jio just keeps complaining about his totally stolen skewer. The young man guarantees he will return the favor. He pulls out a massive money bag. He holds it right out for them. Everyone is totally wondering. Maybe he is not homeless after all. Kang hands it over, saying this should be enough to pay him back. Jio steps right up to grab the cash, but the bag vanishes into thin air in the blink of an eye. Two random thieves ride past on a motorcycle. They snatch the money bag, hitting the gas and literally robbing everyone along the street. Heiji yells she will call the cops immediately, but she gets super distracted, wondering where the guys suddenly disappeared to. The three guys are already sprinting off. They scream that they are not letting them take that money. The thieves notice they are being tailed. They completely mock them, thinking no one on foot will ever catch a motorcycle. But Jio decides to chase these guys down entirely alone. Taegu thinks fast. He knows if Jio uses his powers out here, having witnesses around will be a massive problem. So he grabs Kang's pants to physically block his view. What is this brat doing? Kang asks. Jio checks that the street is totally empty. Taking his one chance, he activates that mutant heart. He runs normally for a few seconds, but watch his pace absolutely explode right here. The thug glances back real quick. He realizes our protagonist is sprinting like a total madman, actually catching up to their speeding bike. He is in pure shock, wondering how any guy keeps up with this insane speed. Right then, Jio leaps up to grab the bag. But the thieves manage to dodge him by a single hair. Jio slams into the ground and rolls backward. Those guys wonder what kind of absolute crazy person that was. They figure they somehow managed to escape him, but the thief is the one getting a massive scare here. The gap between them just is not closing, and he finally realizes this guy is definitely not normal. His partner frantically scans the area for an escape route. He spots a massive stack of bricks right nearby. They smash into the pile, trying to drop the whole thing right onto our guy. The bricks immediately lose balance and come crashing down. He gets caught totally off guard with danger right in his face. A huge dust cloud explodes on impact, swallowing up the entire street. The thief flips him the bird, screaming out good riddance. Yet right through that thick dust, he stands back up, groaning about a headache. He mutters that he has to catch those punks no matter what. Everyone nearby just stares in total shock. Soon enough, a massive crowd circles around him. Meanwhile, way down the road, those thieves park their bike. They brag about finally having a clear getaway, totally hyped over the decent stack of cash they swiped. But suddenly, Kang teleports right in front of them, landing an absolute haymaker on the spot. Those two thugs are completely caught off guard. They instantly lose their balance, flying off the bike and slamming face first right into the pavement. Kang just asks why they were running away so desperately. He casually explains that as long as he touches the ground, he tracks everything anyway. The watching crowd immediately starts whispering, is this guy some kind of mutant? Kang warns them that cash does not belong to them. They better hand every last cent over right now. The thief yells at him to cut the crap. He screams that being a mutant means nothing since there is no way he has armor protecting his bare stomach. Right on cue, the gang starts revving their engines. And here is the twist. This entire street is actually their main hideout. He smirks, calling this the perfect moment. They're definitely going to sell Kang off too. Kang calmly asks if that is really what they want to do. He touches the dirt, sensing quite a few guys hiding nearby. His stone heart immediately starts reacting. The heavy vibration of the earth funnels straight into his palm. Charging right at him, the bikers suddenly panic as the ground starts shaking with terrifying force. It literally feels like a massive earthquake is tearing through. Panic sets in as huge stone pillars suddenly sprout straight from the concrete. Kang warns he's going to bury this entire hideout with everyone trapped inside. Just like that, he snaps the giant crack completely shut. Way over at the police station, a secretary hands over a thick file to the team leader. He lets her know these are the exact target details she requested earlier. Hayne quickly notes this is the construction company suspected of tying back to that shady research lab. She realizes the team leader looks pretty young. Time to call Jio now. The secretary asks if this suspect is related to that kid, but Hayne replies that no one really knows for certain just yet. While she admits this could easily be the friend Jio has been hunting for, it is at least a major clue. Her gut instinct says it is definitely his old pal. Back at the office, Gio bursts in shouting aggressively, demanding to know if she found his friend. She tells him to just calm down since she still is not entirely sure yet. Complimenting his new uniform, she casually asks how school is going. Gio says everything is great, but sitting in class actually makes him miss his old friends way more. He cuts the small talk short, desperate to know what she meant about finding his buddy. She hands over the documents explaining they are currently investigating a target right around his age. Begging him to take a close look, she hopes this is his missing friend. Gio grabs the papers, intensely analyzing the guy staring back from the photograph. Then it clicks, he loudly points out, this is the homeless guy from earlier today. He clearly remembers this dude eating his entire chicken skewer. The girl patiently explains that his current name is Dong-wook Kong. Gio admits he does not recognize the face whatsoever. He explains his eyes were ruined back in the lab and never regenerated, but guarantees he would know his friend in person. He states he has never seen that face or name before until a sudden realization hits him. Pausing for a second, he points out that this stone-turning ability is an incredibly specific power. That exact power belonged to Du Hyunkong, his buddy from the lab. Think about it, with that skill, it absolutely has to be him. Gio asks if the man in this photo actually uses rock-based powers. She confirms it, adding that the specific ability is literally called Rock Heart. Urgently asking about the guy's location, he finds out he is working directly with the lab, exactly like Chiwon. She figures that is probably how he became the wealthy boss of a multi-million-dollar construction company. Admitting it is purely circumstantial evidence right now, she remains completely certain of the connection. Gio grimly repeats that his friend is in the same boat as Chiwon. Hain asks if he is actually up for this custom mission she prepared. A wide smile spreads across his face. He replies that she can be absolutely sure he is in. She explains they need to look at a labor firm called Hodon Construction. Du Hyunkong is actually the boss there. She tells him he is going undercover straight to the site where Du Hyunkong is working today. The mission here is simple: locate his friend inside and figure out his exact deal with the lab, but she hits him with a harsh warning. Keep in mind the people he once knew have completely changed. Dong is way more tangled up in this lab mess than Chuen ever was. She orders him to stay sharp and question absolutely everything. And if he can somehow convince Dong to flip sides, even better. That rips the power right away from this lab, exploiting test subjects, letting them drag the whole ugly truth into the daylight. We jump cuts and Tu completely jumps out of his skin mid-job. Sure, he promised to help Gio track down his buddy, but brutal manual labor, that was definitely not on his bingo card today. Gio checks in on him, saying he really appreciates the backup, but his buddy absolutely does not need to work himself into an early grave. Tu just waves it off. He claims this is a total breeze and tells Gio to chill. They are literally infiltrating his friend's company right now, so he tells Gio to just trust the process. But when Tu asks where exactly this target is hiding, Gio drops a bomb he has absolutely zero clue. Cue the immediate panic attack. Tu realizes the master plan is literally just wandering this massive construction site until they trip over the guy. Gio innocently asks, wait, is there a problem with that strategy? Tu snaps that they will never find anyone that way. They need to just ask the local crew. All they gotta do is kiss up to the older guys a bit. Right on cue, a site manager aggressively crushes a can nearby. He grumbles about hiring kids who just stand around slacking off. The guy starts screaming, everyone here is busting their hump, do they not see that? He rants that today's youth always run away like scared dogs when the job gets tough. Then he barks at Gio to stop sprinting with heavy loads before he trips and snaps a bone. He gives them exactly 1 hour to move all the material. If they fail, they can just pack up and get out. Both boys agree right on the spot. The older workers stomp off whining about hiring useless kids. Meanwhile, Tu groans that the grumpy boss did not even give them a single opening to ask questions. He figures they gotta finish the work before getting any answers. But how the heck are they supposed to clear that giant mountain of debris in 60 minutes? Well, the boss man specifically yelled at Gio for running with the load. So since running is banned, he comes up with a brilliant loophole. He decides to just stack a completely insane amount of weight on his back and walk nice and slow. Tu starts freaking out. That pile weighs around 160 kilos. No normal human being can lift that much. Watch this carefully because the construction workers cannot believe their eyes. They stare in pure awe as Gio zooms past. He casually claims he is just walking really fast. Tu chases after him, begging the guy to slow down. Everyone wonders where this freakish strength comes from. Just like that, Tu announces the cement is totally cleared. They wrap up the whole impossible job in under an hour, leaving Tu asking what comes next. A worker laughs that these kids have too much energy to burn. He points toward another pile of cement across the site, but before the sentence even ends, Gio takes off. He flies past the entire crew carrying the heavy bag. The grown men are looking incredibly stunned now. Soon enough, the boys announce the second cement pile is cleared too, asking what else needs doing. They jump straight into the cement work. They pass tools to the veterans. They even haul all the heavy timber entirely by themselves. The older guys completely flip their stance. Unlike most lazy kids today, these two are insanely hardworking and fast. One guy jokes that if every kid worked like this, they would welcome them with open arms. But suddenly, a live power cable snaps and starts violently whipping through the air. The disconnected wire flails around like a dangerous snake. A younger worker screams for everyone to get back. Mr. Song is inches away from a direct hit, but Jio instantly steps right into the danger zone. Song screams out his name in absolute terror, yet Jio tanks the massive energy discharge without flinching. Finally, a worker hits the kill switch. Jio just plops down onto the dirt. The whole crew rushes over frantic to see if he is alive. He brushes it off, claiming he is fine and barely felt a thing, though internally he is sweating. The current was pretty weak, so he avoided burns, but he came dangerously close to exposing his mutant powers. The relieved workers declare they officially owe him a massive favor. From that moment on, they treat Jio like absolute royalty. Jio is just glad things worked out nicely, though he quickly realizes these construction sites are basically active war zones. Now he totally gets why these guys are always on edge despite being genuinely good dudes deep down. 2 points out the obvious: the crew definitely respects them enough now to answer a few simple questions. Asking directly would look super sketchy, so they try playing it cool. 2 casually asks if there are any spots nearby with guys their age, which hilariously backfires when the confused workers question how old he actually is. They point out that Teo looks like he is at least 30 years old. Teo angrily grumbles that he is only 17. Jumping in, Jio quickly clarifies they are hunting for a company with guys in their 20s. The workers mention that Hoden Construction hires plenty of guys fitting that exact description. Jio immediately asks where they hang out. It is a notoriously brutal place, the crew explains, but the pay is massive because the labor is twice as exhausting. 2 presses them again, where exactly do these specific guys go to chill? Then one of the guys points out they are arriving right now. A crisp white van pulls up alongside them. A guy steps out and Taegu immediately side-eyes his outfit. He cannot fathom how a simple construction worker affords such insane luxury gear. We are talking high-end brands from head to toe. Taegu is practically itching to know their salary out of pure jealousy. While Taegu causes a scene, Do-young finally steps out of the car. He whips off his glasses, instantly recognizing a familiar face. He points out that Ji-ho is the dude who handed him that chicken skewer earlier, but these two actually have a much deeper history. Ji-ho flashes back to his long hours at the lab. He knows this guy better than anyone on Earth. It has been over a decade, so he casually drops that they have met before. Do-hyung laughs it off as a super small world, but Ji-ho fires back, no coincidence, he already knew he was working here. Do-hyun acts totally stunned, demanding to know how he figured that out. Here is Ji-ho's master plan starting today. He is joining the company to dig up every single secret. He needs to expose this sketchy lab connection, whether Do-hyung is a willing pawn or being blackmailed. Ultimately, he just wants his old friend back. Cut to the office where Do-hyung is struggling to process this entire absurd situation. He asks if these two really trekked out here for a job. He appreciates the hustle, but warns them it is not that simple. Ji-ho totally saw that rejection coming. Do-hyung has always been a hardcore rules guy, so he boldly declares the boss will soon realize he needs him. Do-hyung looks at him like he grew a second head. Time for a live demonstration. Ji-ho stands up while the room watches in sheer confusion, casually shifting the cup and folders across the desk. Do-hyung is completely thrown off guard. This kid just started rearranging his entire workspace without asking. Taegu panics, asking what on earth he is doing and scolding him for grabbing someone else's stuff. The rest of the crew is just baffled. For his grand finale, Ji-ho shoves a cabinet out of the way. Job done, he proudly announces. This is the peak layout for efficiency. The workers start complaining, but Do-hyung raises a hand, absolute silence. He actually asks Ji-ho to explain this supposedly genius setup. Ji-ho breaks it down. Boss is right-handed, so coffee goes on the right. Plus, folders absolutely must sit in chronological order. The pen holder gets shoved to a quiet corner out of the way, but perfectly within grabbing distance. Do-young squints and asks why he touched the cabinet. Ji-ho explains it was blocking the window's direct view of the site. For a boss managing everything, having eyes on the ground is totally essential. The crew shouts that this is an absolute joke. They set the room up like that for a reason. Ji-ho fires back instantly. If they actually knew anything, today's messy accident would never have happened. He preaches that real efficiency is not about speed. It is building an environment where anyone can react instantly when danger hits. Watch this. That is true efficiency right there, the only valid way to stop disasters before they start. Do-hyung actually nods along. He points out his own team did not even realize things went south outside. He asks if the manager even knew about the accident. The manager stammers about missing the official report. Do-hyung snaps, does he really need a piece of paper to see what is happening right outside? He tells them to just look at the scattered materials or notice the visibly missing workers. A good manager spots an issue just from the schedule delay alone. After that utterly brutal scolding, he points a sharp finger right at Ji-ho. Jihyo just stares at the finger completely silent, but then Do-hyung slowly cracks a smile. He bursts out laughing. Jihyo just exposed a massive blind spot he totally missed, so it is officially time to reassess everything from scratch. Jihyo internally smirks, remembering he taught Do-hyung that trick years ago. In a flashback, Do-hyung organizes stretchers, praising the newfound efficiency. Jihyo gets completely fired up. He admits he was super worried about the team getting hurt and begs to learn his methods. A younger shy Do-hyung offers to teach him the ropes. Snapping back to the present, he points at Jihyo and loudly announces he starts at the company today. He adds he needs to step out for some business, but expects all the hiring paperwork done by the time he returns. Jihyo bows respectfully while Taegu throws him a massive compliment. Jihyo knows this man way better than he realizes. Now he just has to figure out what shady business connects him to the lab. But Taegu looks around and notices the room's vibe is completely toxic. The guys around them are absolutely fuming. An hour later at the construction site, that heavy tension still lingers. Taegu complains about doing all the heavy lifting until the boss returns. Jihyo just brushes it off. This is already a huge win for him. But then a worker kicks their pipe, demanding to know who placed it there. He barks that the piece should be facing the complete opposite direction. Jihyo shoots back that they followed his exact orders. The guy just tells him to shut his mouth and flip the pipe already. A whole hour drags by after that. The same worker kicks the pipe again, demanding why they are laying drainage now. Taegu cannot figure out what this guy is trying to pull. The guy complains the slope is not even leveled yet, and absolutely no one told them to lay the pipe first. Taegu insists they followed his exact instructions. The man just grabs him by the shirt, asking if he is talking back, telling him to get lost if he hates it. He tells Taegu to quit whining and tear everything out within an hour. Taegu glances to the side right after that. He catches the man flashing a completely mocking smirk. It becomes totally clear these guys are messing with them on purpose. The realization just makes Taegu even more furious. He tells Jihyo he is heading to the bathroom. On his way there, he overhears those same workers laughing it up. They call Jihyo a brat, acting like he owns the place. They complain about having too many mouths to feed, zero reason to split their cash with some random kid. They figure the foreman is on their side anyway. Taegu slams his fist into the door, calling out their cheap talk. He tells them they are dead wrong if they expect him to just sit back and take this. He promises to literally knock some sense into their heads. The crew wonders when the kids sneaked up on them. Taegu grabs one of the guys by the collar, accusing them of completely sabotaging the job. The giant worker says he really wants to beat him to a pulp, but sadly cannot do it. Taegu fires right back. He points out the guy started this provocation, and he actually knows how to use his fists, too. Another worker steps in to break it up, warning everyone not to start a fight. He claims the kid lacks even the basic skills and should just be thankful he got hired through his friend. The sheer audacity just irritates Taegu even more. He demands to know if the man thinks they are the only ones working or if he is somehow stronger than everyone else here. The worker smirks and replies that they can just settle this in another way. He challenges Taegu to settle it all with a simple arm wrestling match. Win this, and they promise to show respect and stop bothering them entirely. Taegu thinks this suddenly turned into a pretty childish game, but he knows this guy picked the absolute wrong person to challenge. He's entirely sure he will turn that mocking look into pure regret in seconds. But before Taegu can even react, his arm gets slammed right into the table. The young man is left completely bewildered. He desperately tries to process what just happened. His opponent is actually incredibly skilled. If this were a real fight, he would be completely screwed. The guy loudly announces that both of them need to resign now that he lost. The rules are clear. The loser packs his bags and leaves. Taegu suddenly realizes this was their plan all along. His arm only hit the table once, but the pain is entirely unbearable. Making matters worse, the man squeezes his hand even harder. He warns they are definitely going for another round. Taegu raises his free hand and quickly apologizes. He admits defeat but adds that his friend will never agree to this. That is exactly why they should try settling the situation another way. The worker boasts he will handle the friend himself, but Taegu warns him it will do absolutely no good. No one here can break that guy's stubbornness. And here is the crazy part. Taegu knows that if Jihyo gets involved, he will completely destroy them all. He practically begs them to just let the matter go. The guys reply that it does not even matter if they leave on their own. They are leaving either way because their hands are getting crushed right here. The man starts viciously slamming Taegu's hand onto the table repeatedly. Taegu cries out from the sheer pain. The aggressor raises his arm up high, ready to slam his hand one last time. In that exact instant, Jihyo firmly places his hand on the table. The room's atmosphere shifts immediately. Everyone is left completely speechless. Taegu nervously calls out Jihyo's name. Jihyo just calmly announces that his arm wrestling rules are completely different. He challenges the guy to a real match. The previously serious group erupts into laughter, but Jihyo maintains a deadly cold expression. Taigyu yells out that they are nothing but a bunch of cowards. The guys declare the rules just changed. The hospital bill falls entirely on the rookie. The brute claims he was going easy out of pity for his friend, but his mind is totally changed now. He gives a dark warning. Jio's arm might actually end up broken. The two lock hands, and you can almost feel the tension. The man thinks he is dealing with a stupid kid who does not understand the danger. He decides to just snap Jio's hand to teach him and his partner a harsh lesson. He loudly declares this match ends in 1 second, but in the blink of an eye, Jio slams the guy's arm against the table. The bone snaps clean in half. The guy starts screaming in pure agony. The rest of his crew stands there completely stunned. Jio tells him to get back in position. He points out the match isn't over yet and casually slams that broken arm right back into the table. The guy hits the floor hard, rolling around and clutching his shattered hand. The others totally panic and scream for Supervisor Joe. They rush Jio all at once, but his expression doesn't even shift as they charge right at him. He takes 2 of them down single-handed. Then another guy cracks a wooden club across his back and instantly eats a massive punch in return. The sheer impact sends him flying backward until his buddies catch him. The foreman shouts that Jio isn't human and orders everyone to rush him. But then a booming voice tells all these idiots to stop right there. Every single delinquent freezes in place. Jio turns his head. Dongyong just arrived on the scene. He demands to know what the hell is going on. One guy tries explaining, so Dongyong literally slams his head into the wall. The man begs for mercy. Dongyong barks that they should train instead of bullying people. Taigyu realizes Jio might get fired if this escalates. He jumps in with a lie, claiming it was just a misunderstanding and some friendly arm wrestling. Jio completely cuts through the lie. He clearly states the guy hit his friend first. Dongyong replies that he already knows since they pull this stunt constantly. Still, he strictly warns Jio that he definitely crossed a serious line today. He orders the kid to look at the absolute mess he caused here. Jio fires right back. His friend is in the exact same state, and Tu's hand is so swollen he can't even hold anything. He had to hit back exactly that hard so they never try it again. Dongyong notes this kid is just talking back to the bitter end. He admits he was being pretty lenient before, but Jio is practically begging for a beating. Jio fires back that he definitely doesn't want a beating, but keeping quiet means absolutely nothing will ever change around here. Dongyong feels a striking sense of deja vu. It reminds him of his own past when he insisted the experiments had to continue no matter what. Jio bluntly repeats silence changes nothing. He can endure anything himself but won't ever stand by while a friend gets hurt. Dongyong privately admits this kid strongly channels his past self. Tu panics thinking they are about to get tossed on the street. Dongyong asks where he got that idea. Jio isn't just running away after causing this much trouble. Jio is genuinely surprised to hear this. Dongyong explains the guy with the broken arm is hospital-bound, so somebody has to actually cover his upcoming shift. The foreman interrupts, suggesting the other guys take it. Dongyong snaps at him to shut up, warning that his temper is literally hanging by a thread right now. Jio asks if he just needs to do the work in place of the injured guy. Dongyong tells him to skip the details and just show up at 5 in the morning. He's going to train this boy personally. The very next day, Jio figures this has to involve some deep lab secret. He tries imagining their master plan right until Dongyong finally spots him. Dongyong orders the kid to follow closely. They are heading deep underground. Watch closely now. He hits the rusty elevator button and Jio starts wondering what's actually hiding down in that basement. The old freight elevator drops into the sub-levels and Jio desperately tries figuring out what this guy is hiding. Dongyong asks if the kid feels nervous and Jio admits he is a little. Dongyong jokes that yesterday he fearlessly confronted the boss, but now he is completely losing his nerve. Jio firmly replies that he simply can't stand watching a friend face that kind of cowardice. Dongyong actually agrees. It's way better than those idiots who are all talk, but he firmly warns Jio never to pull a dangerous stunt like that again. He makes it crystal clear if he causes any trouble down in this place, he isn't leaving alive. The rusty elevator stops. Dongyong announces they have finally arrived. Jio stares. Beneath the construction site sits a massive, endless underground tunnel. What is this guy planning for the lab? Dongyong plainly states everything down here is a strict corporate secret. He orders Jio to move all these heavy barrels into position. Jio asks what's inside, and Dongyong just barks at him to drop the questions. He wants every barrel moved by the end of the day, 0 complaints since Jio was the one who beat his guys half to death. He turns around and tells Jio to get to work. Jio smiles in quiet relief. It feels good seeing his old partner again, almost tempted to reveal his true identity. But not yet. First, he needs to figure out this plot. Only then can he finally drop the mask. He stares hard at those barrels, intensely curious about what they actually hold. They're sealed tight and definitely shouldn't be opened, but he forces a lid anyway. He rips it off with insane ease, immediately locking onto what's hiding inside. He instantly recognizes that harsh chemical scent from the lab. He literally plunges his hand right into the mysterious liquid. He knows if he absorbs this stuff into his blood, he gets answers. But the reaction completely startles him. It is the exact same feeling from when he got dosed before. His arm pulls out of the barrel completely disfigured. He realizes it is the exact same toxin from his old experiments. What is Dongyang actually plotting? He has to warn Haiyan fast. This proves a clear connection. Meanwhile, Dongyang watches this entire thing play out on the cameras. His own hands begin turning into solid stone. He figures the new kid is no ordinary street punk. Now he knows for sure the guy is a real mutant, the absolute real deal. Cracking open that barrel proves he might belong to some rival organization definitely trying to steal the chemicals. He decides to extract answers once his men catch him. He hops on the radio. The intruder has regeneration, so absolutely do not hold back. He wants to test the exact limits of this healing factor, planning to finish the kid off himself in the end. Back downstairs, Jio wonders what Dongyang is trying to accomplish. He realizes the boss knew from the start and approached him entirely on purpose. He assumed Dongyang was a naive idiot, but he was so incredibly wrong. It becomes obvious Dongyang knows him perfectly, playing his emotions like a damn fiddle this whole time. Being analyzed this closely proves his infiltration was completely expected. Jio admits he has zero clue what the guy actually wants. The door suddenly kicks open and a mob of thugs pours inside. Jio realizes he completely messed with the wrong target. The crew tells him to bring it on, bragging they already know everything. Their reaction genuinely surprises him. He demands to know what is going on. They sneer, they saw everything on camera, cursing him out as a mutant freak. Now watch how fast this shifts. They charge him at once, but Jio sends the first guy flying with a single strike, dropping them without mercy. Watching closely, Dongyang wonders if he is a body reinforcement mutant. Jio realizes he has no other choice. If the path is blocked, he just needs to smash through with raw brute force. He punks another delinquent straight through the air. The whole squad is completely terrified, but Jio gives them zero breathing room until several guys finally manage to tackle him down. Someone cracks a heavy bat right into his face. Jio just eats hit after hit without pausing. The thug mocks his regeneration, bragging this bat breaks bones, until Jio simply answers with a brutal punch right to the guy's face. He tosses the heavy guy away with almost absurd ease. Up above, Dongyang figures this raw strength is impressive, but feels the kid is hiding his true potential, and he knows it will burst out soon. Another bruiser charges in, swinging heavy chains as the mob frantically starts holding Jio down again. They rapidly tie him up with the cold metal pinning every single limb. But then the thugs notice he is starting to stand up. Another thug readies a jagged knife, ordering everyone to keep him grounded. The sick plan slices nerves, so he literally cannot move a muscle. The thug viciously stabs the boy multiple times, but winding up for the next strike, the attacker just freezes in pure shock. He just landed dozens of lethal hits, and yet Jio does not even flinch. It is something entirely terrifyingly inhuman. Jio presses one bloody finger to the ground. His resurrection heart activates. Suddenly, every drop of blood on the floor starts slithering right toward him. Dongyang notices something freakish. The kid is literally absorbing all the scattered blood. With everything pulling in at once, his body begins regenerating. This crazy healing is way faster than the heavy damage he took. This incredible regeneration speed is practically unheard of. Plus, he gets significantly stronger the more blood he absorbs. He looks like a total runaway train. Dongyang desperately wants to know what kind of heart powers this. Down below, Jio braces for combat. He vanishes in a split second. A brutal strike crushes a thug's face, sending the rest of the guys flying away. Jio keeps dropping them one by one. The blonde thug panics over this insane speed, but Jio is already standing right in front of him. He lands a devastatingly heavy blow straight to the guy's chest. The man instantly coughs up a spray of blood, collapsing right into his friends. Meanwhile, Jio easily dodges another desperate attack from the mob. He grips the ground with immense force, ripping up the floor. The crew watches in pure madness as he lifts a massive concrete slab. Jio prepares the massive slab. He hurls the concrete straight at them while the terrified delinquents just freeze. They only manage to raise their arms in a desperate defense. Instantly, a massive cloud of thick dust kicks up everywhere. The dust slowly settles, revealing the gang is somehow completely unharmed. Jio just maintains a dead serious expression. A heavy stone hand shatters the concrete to pieces. Dongyang is now standing directly in front of him. Dongyang just wants to ask one question. He has to know what kind of heart the boy possesses. The giant admits he has fought heart mutants before, but healing fatal wounds in under a second. That is something entirely new. Seeing that move alone makes him realize the kid is high tier with a seriously enhanced body. Thinking about regeneration only brings one specific kid to his mind. But that guy had a pretty weak power, and more importantly, he already died in a massive bomb explosion. Jio just stands right there completely silent. Dongyang naturally takes that quiet response as a clear yes. He warns the kid he's going to teach him manners by pure force. Jio effortlessly dodges the heavy strikes. The kid figures it is way too early to drop his real identity, Plus, he still needs to dig up exactly how this guy connects to that laboratory. So he decides to hold on to his suspicions about Kang Dongyong for now. Jio just keeps slipping past every single attack thrown his way. Dongyong winds up for a massive final punch. He calls out the boy and his instant healing trick. He warns the kid is totally screwed if he relies only on that trick. This next strike is not going to just leave a simple bruise. He promises there will not be a single piece of his body left intact to tell the tale. Right then, huge stone pillars suddenly erupt from the dirt. The jagged rocks shoot straight toward Jio, slamming him hard, right into a massive boulder behind him. Dongyong warns the boy that this is his absolute final chance. He forcefully pulls the surrounding stones right into his hand. His entire fist gets coated in a rock armor way thicker than usual. He demands to know exactly who sent him here one last time. Jio suddenly realizes his foot is completely pinned to the ground. He looks down and sees his legs are firmly locked inside the solid stone. Seeing the kid choose to stay completely silent despite the death threat, Dongyong just unleashes a brutally heavy punch straight into his face. Jio gets blasted backward with so much raw force, he crashes right through the solid rock wall. The factory gang is totally terrified by the sight. Dongyong just stands there casually. Meanwhile, Jio literally gets his head torn off, sending it flying right through the air. That punch carried enough insane force to completely tear his body apart. The headless chunk of his body just slumps down onto the dirt. Those local delinquents stand completely frozen in shock at the absurdly graphic violence. But suddenly, Jio starts violently spouting out blood from his severed head. That crimson liquid acts like a bizarre magnetic glue, yanking his head right back onto his neck. Just like that, his whole physical body fully regenerates instantly. Dongyong is absolutely floored seeing this guy stand back up after literally losing his head. Our protagonist immediately takes advantage of the stunned silence, driving a crazy heavy punch into his stomach. This actually makes Dongyong wonder if he is still actively regenerating and growing stronger. He gets shoved back hard by the impact. Dongyong digs his heavy foot into the dirt, slowly sliding backward to catch himself. He finally stops his momentum and faces the protagonist head-on. He confidently warns him that the hit was nothing, claiming simple flesh and bone can never pierce his solid stone skin. He laughs and says the kid is just going to break his own arm. But he instantly realizes he spoke way too soon. While he was bragging, the mangled arm of the protagonist was already almost entirely healed up. This nasty surprise suddenly jogs his memory. The familiar image of Kim Jio flashes brightly right across his mind. Back in the day, that particular boy took hours to heal one arm. Now that exact face is stuck permanently inside his head. Meanwhile, this mystery kid can regenerate in 1 second flat, even after being completely decapitated. He ultimately decides he cannot mistake that old weakling for this literal monster. He figures anyone packing this kind of insane power must belong to a rival organization trying to steal his secret laboratory information. But honestly, he does not care who this guy really is. He loudly guarantees nobody is laying a finger on his lab and launches another brutal stone attack. Jio gets caught right in the middle of the crushing rocks once again, except this time he violently smashes through the debris himself and charges dead ahead. Dongyong is left completely speechless by the move and immediately eats a direct punch to the face. Even taking the hit, he yells at the kid to just give up since punching him is completely useless. He promises the lab will expose his real identity anyway once he gets delivered. Jio realizes he was totally right this entire time. He pieces together that this guy is actively selling mutants to the laboratory. He promises the villain he is not walking away unpunished today. Dongyong furiously asks what he means by that story, but the protagonist gives him zero room to react, sinking another brutally heavy punch into his gut. He tells the boss to look back and face his own terrible sins. Classic villain logic, Dongyong yells that none of this matters because he is about to become a billionaire. He promises to sell the protagonist for the highest possible asking price. Jio calmly replies that if that is the case, he will just forcefully knock some sense into him. He suddenly starts absorbing all the fresh blood currently scattered across the dirty floor. Dongyong just awkwardly stares, trying to process what is actually happening. A genuinely absurd amount of blood gets forcefully pulled in all at once. He finally realizes the kid is actively spiking his own power level, immediately eating yet another massive strike to the stomach. Dongyong calls him a total idiot for completely wasting such a strong ability, stubbornly repeating that fragile human bones will never break his solid rock armor. He thinks this whole fight is turning ridiculous. Jio just ignores him relentlessly, landing heavy hit after hit. Dongyong warns him throw 1,000 punches, the result stays the exact same. The only thing breaking here will be the attacker's own hand. Jio prepares for another attack. A totally brutal rib strike. But right then, Dongyong finally feels the pain. He wonders why these blows are actually starting to work. Moving faster than before, our guy lands a perfect hook right on his chin. Jio leaves him zero room to breathe. He yells out, "I can strike 1,000 times if I have to." A complete lunatic. Dongyang quickly realizes who he is dealing with and begins dodging. He notes that Jio does not care if his own body tears apart, which is exactly why he charged in with everything, taking the damage just to find weak points. Once a crack appears, it spreads. Dongyang counters with a heavy stone strike, completely cratering the ground where the boy stood. But he immediately realizes Jio is already gone. Full force. Jio strikes his chest again, launching the giant away like he weighs absolutely nothing. Dongyang simply cannot match that insane speed, crouching on the ground to gather himself. He feels an absurd amount of pain in his head. The cracks across his stone skin look pretty brutal. Does this kid feel any pain? Probably not. Realizing his massive mistake, he notes that trying to capture him alive was just pure stupidity. Zero holding back against a monster like that. So in response, he starts swallowing rocks straight from the ground. Jio watches this insanity, probably wondering the exact same thing we are. Dongyang's flesh tears apart as his heart reacts to the whole process. He screams at his men, "Get out of here if you still want to live." The men do not think twice and run for it. Dongyang's heart gets completely loaded with minerals, his absolute limit. The body density peaks and the ground vibrates violently. Clenching his fists, he announces he will uproot everything around them, forming a massive and gigantic boulder. Jio is shocked, wondering how the man can control something so huge. He knows if that hits him directly, there will not even be dust left behind. Only one option. He has to get out of there as fast as possible. Dongyang screams this is the end. Stone walls rise up and trap Jio right in his tracks, crushing the boy from all sides and totally smashing him between the massive rocks. The impact sends jagged stones flying everywhere. Dongyang never imagined a single mutant would force him to use 100% of his strength. Panting heavily, he tries to catch his breath. Spitting blood from the sheer exertion, he thinks about how rich he would be delivering the kid alive, but he simply could not afford to hold back. But wait for it, he spots something super weird straight ahead. Through the smoke, a skeleton rises from the rubble. He can barely believe the boy survived that. His torn flesh is still trying to regenerate from absolutely nothing, but Jio suddenly collapses. Dongyang concludes that even a broken ability must have its limits. He admits he felt serious chills, thinking the boy was going to stand back up. At least something is left for the lab. But then the unexpected actually happens. The skeleton arm begins to move on its own, touching the ground in a completely bizarre way. Dongyang freezes up and says this is impossible. All the blood on the ground begins flowing straight toward the boy. Then it starts getting absorbed by the skeleton arms. Nothing but bone. Jio fiercely charges forward anyway. Dongyang had never heard of an immortal mutant before. He realizes this is no ordinary regeneration. His ability simply denies death itself. Then our protagonist lands a solid blow to his abdomen and Dongyang coughs up blood. Direct hit. The impact throws him straight into the warehouse wall and he falls. He coughs violently as the protagonist slowly approaches. Dongyang asks what kind of power that even is lifting his head to look up. He demands to know who the guy really is, but then it clicks. He seriously cannot believe his own eyes. That terrifying skeleton looks exactly like his old friend from the past. He genuinely wonders if his buddy had not actually lost his life back then. Is it really him standing there? He calls out the name. Kim Jio. Dongyang wonders why he hid this ability to infiltrate the company. Focusing power again. Dongyang thinks this as Jio touches his hand to the ground once more. The protagonist gears up for an all-out charge. He realizes Jio is actually trying to end him. Survival is impossible after another hit like that. He desperately screams the name Kim Jio one more time. He asks if Jio is really going to try and kill his own friend. He tells the idiot to stop hitting him, and Jio stops his punch in midair right on time. Later on, back in the company room, Dongyang starts thinking about Jio. He only brought the guy to the office to talk things out. But this Jio is completely different from the one he knew, changing in both personality and raw ability. His regeneration is just completely insane. The guy is basically walking immortality. Doyoung wonders how much his old friend has actually changed, casually offering Jio some coffee. Doyoung counts this as a massive win. Jio has a pretty soft heart, and putting a guy like that under his thumb would be an absolute triumph. He thinks he still knows his buddy perfectly, mentioning he totally assumed Jio died way back in the past. Now Doyoung wants to know why he hid his real identity and played the innocent worker. But Jio cuts the small talk short. He tells Doyoung to hand over his arm before they chat. Totally confused, Doyoung just extends his hand without a clue. He mentions taking a little scratch earlier, but Jio says he already knows, and that little injury is exactly why he asked for the hand. Right then, Jio locks in and focuses. Now pay attention to this flashback with Hyen. She asks straight up if he was stressing over the Chaewon situation. Jio confirms that is exactly the problem. He needs to know what to do if a mess like Chaewon ever repeats itself. She gives it to him straight, you have to fight. But for Jio, throwing hands with a friend he missed for years is just too painful. He honestly wonders if they can just talk things out. She tells him to wake up and get real. She asks what he actually wants out of this. Jio says he just wants to save their friends trapped inside the lab. She realizes he means the ones who helped them back then. But pretty words will not save them now. Those guys are high-ranking mutants with very serious jobs. They drop bodies without a single thought. They are already hardened criminals. Does he seriously think killers like that will just stop and listen to him? At this rate, he will just get used instead of saving anyone. They will coldly calculate his worth, toss him in the fire, and watch him burn. Literally an exact replay of Chaewon. His old crew might need rescuing, but they are also the exact same monsters who could kill him. Jio thinks hard about taking a fatal hit from them. He agrees, admitting they really are not the same innocent kids anymore. He realizes keeping up this soft act means he will eventually lose everyone else too. So he asks what actually needs to change to save them all. Hyen respects the drive but warns him he has one crucial thing completely wrong. He has to flip his entire mindset from day one and completely stop seeing them as friends. To save everyone, he has to stand above them. Jio has no idea what that means right as the girl bites into her own finger. She tells him to try absorbing her blood. Snapping back to the present, Jio announces he just finished what he needed to do. He warns his old buddy not to drop a single lie from here on out. Jio tunes in on the target pulse, saying he hears the heartbeat perfectly clear. Doyoung is totally clueless about how he is pulling this off. Jio explains he absorbed the blood and tapped into Hyen's power. She mentioned before that investigators discovered blood mutants can easily sense a beating heart. Reading intentions straight from a racing pulse gives him a massive upper hand in this chat. Jio demands to know why this guy works for the very lab that tortured them for 10 years. He wants a real answer right now. Doyoung is absolutely floored, realizing Jio is actually tracking his pulse. He looks at Jio, seeing a complete monster standing there, wondering what the hell happened. Doyoung says there is only one thing he needs to know. He asks what Jio is actually aiming for here. Jio plainly states his mission to completely destroy the lab, making Doyoung literally spit his coffee. He asks if Jio is actually serious right now. The kid confirms it, then presses Doyoung on how deep his lab connections really go. Doyoung tells him to drop the reckless act, warning that the lab is basically untouchable. Plus, he points out all their old friends are locked up inside right now. Jio does not budge an inch, declaring he will wipe the place out and drag his friends to freedom. Doyoung refuses to help whatsoever, terrified of making the lab his enemy. Jio shrugs it off. He just wants the intel and definitely does not need permission to wreck the joint. Doyoung gnashes his teeth in pure frustration at those words. Real fear starts creeping in. He finally caves, handing over his hidden stash of documents. This is the secret data he quietly scraped together inside the base. It has a bit of everything: detailed facility, blueprints, mutant code names, and endless lists of missing people. Tossing over photos and journals, he says everything short of max security files is right there, begging to be left entirely out of this suicide plan. But here is where Jio completely flips the script. Kang Doyoung simply has way too much inside intel on this place. If he really wanted to stay off their radar, gathering this mountain of evidence makes zero sense. He notes that the exact second he mentioned attacking the lab, Doyoung had a massive heart rate spike. It was like he was dying to hear those exact words. In reality, Doyoung secretly wants to achieve this exact same goal. Stunned, Doyoung wonders how a simple pulse gave all his secrets away. Defeated, he admits he really cannot hide a single thing from Jio. Doyoung confesses that deep down that was exactly it. He absolutely wants to crush the lab too, but figured it was completely impossible. The place is way bigger than he ever imagined. Connections everywhere. Their facilities are buried deep underground, completely hidden, out of reach. Plus, their influence network is simply insane. Everything relies on sacrificing his friends. They know exactly how to manipulate everyone. They exploit every single weakness, dangling rewards as bait to keep control. That makes him hesitate. He asks if Jio still wants to attack. Even so, Jio guarantees he will rescue his captive friends. He swears the lab will never ever use them again. No matter how massive the enemy is, his mind is firmly made up. But he warns he seriously needs Kang Doyoung. Doyoung remembers trying this before. He warns that just the two of them will never be enough no matter their strength. But Jio drops a bombshell. He is not doing this alone. Doyoung freezes. Jio asks if he has ever heard the name Song Hyen. Doyoung quickly asks if she actually leads the mutant team. He knows she is the one person even the lab avoids, the strongest mutant ever. You guys seeing this wild twist? He cannot understand why Jio knows this absolute monster. He asks if she is backing the plan. Jio confirms they can meet right now. Doyoung thinks having her support changes things. Convincing his friends might actually work, especially since Kim Jio was always pretty close to every single one of them. This is absolute madness. But can he really trust him? Jio simply asks him to believe. The young man heavily sighs. He complains that Jio appears out of nowhere and flips absolutely everything upside down. Then he firmly shakes the hand of Jio. Deal, they are moving forward. Meanwhile, in a strange and entirely grim location, a man calls out for test subject 0032 Lim Naren. He calls her the regeneration subject destined to replace him, then he cruelly drops the truth. No one is coming to save her. Back in the office, Hein notes he was a test subject just like Jio. She reveals he currently runs Hoden Construction, specializing in underground foundations built strictly to support the lab. She casually asks if she's right so far. Do-young admits she knows a ton. She must have been investigating him from the very start. She confirms he was on their suspect list for a while. They already knew all about his fake identity tied to the lab. Just like Jio, Do-young states he finds none of this amusing. He argues the police using a friend as bait is just dead wrong. He warns she is crossing a dangerous line. The girl just laughs. She jokes he looks quite cute and spiky when angry like a porcupine. Do-young gets way more annoyed. What did she just say? Jio watches them. His heart is beating so intensely he does not even need a special ability to sense his own pure fear. Do-young silently admits he is genuinely terrified. He is face to face with the mutant team leader, someone even the lab is too scared to confront. It is almost like she is reading his mind. She casually mentions hearing he also plans to attack the laboratory. Do-young asks her not to judge him too harshly. Ultimately, they are all targeting the exact same enemy. Trusting the police is extremely hard. They could easily use and discard him. She asks what he would think if she promised not to do that. She assures him she is actually much warmer than he imagines. Do-young replies that talk is pretty cheap. She has given zero reason to trust her. Hein quickly warns they are getting absolutely nowhere. She suggests he maybe go to the same place as Chuan. She reveals she just sent him to prison recently. She tried finding a way to clear his name, but the guy simply refused to listen to any reason. She adds he might as well join his colleague right behind bars. Do-young gets instantly confused. How did Chuan end up arrested? The two keep arguing until Do-young literally begs for a chance. Hein strongly warns that helping the laboratory is a major crime. It equates to aiding a terrorist organization. She explains she could easily decide his ultimate fate right there, but she generously offers to overlook his past actions as long as he does not cross the line, all because she wants the lab destroyed too. Do-young immediately promises to help. Hein decides to strictly focus on business. She asks for his most useful information right at this moment. He replies a friend of theirs needs rescuing right away. Her ability is highly useful for this mission. The girl in the photo is Lim Naren. He asks if Jio still remembers her. Jio answers she was a completely cheerful and kind girl. Do-young quickly counters, stating she was quiet and cold. Their opinions instantly clash. Do-young asks what Jio is even talking about. Lim Naren was always super gloomy, but Jio strongly insists otherwise. He recalls how she used to hug him from behind. She would ask what he needed, saying they should all just play together. Jio remembers telling her he was hurt. His regenerating skin probably looked utterly disgusting, but the girl just gently replied she liked him anyway. She actually said seeing his wound heal made her happy and she absolutely loved it. Do-hyung is completely shocked. Did that rude brat really say that? Honestly, this makes everything even more perfect. Hye-in notes that convincing the girl should be pretty easy, especially since she was tight with Jio. Rescuing at least one more friend from the clutches of that laboratory would be huge. Looking at the data, the operation actually seems quite simple. The transport vehicles are heading straight through Silver White Road. The plan is to wait along the route, ambush the trucks, and pull Lim Naren out of there. Do-hyung warns that the lab might catch on if he makes a move, asking how they stay protected. Hye-in explains this is the exact moment police forces need to lock down all the neighboring roads. She adds they are cutting communications for a bit to completely block any backup from arriving. Having police backing and a high-ranking officer on their side, Do-hyung thinks that is pretty convenient. He gets the plan and agrees to help. Later, they reach the agreed road. You can cut the tension with a knife as they wait behind the mountain. Do-hyung asks again if Lim Naren is just a complete psychopath. The girl committed all sorts of twisted acts, but somehow Jio saw that as pure kindness. No matter how you slice it, she is completely insane in his eyes. Normally, that laboratory discards anyone with a useless ability, but they actually put up with her. Then he asks another quick question. He wants to know how Chaewon ended up in prison. Jio replies that his criminal record was just way too massive for the cops to ignore. Rumor has it the guy did all sorts of heavy stuff. Do-hyung notes it is no real surprise he finally got busted. He looks back on these recent years. Without Jio around, things have completely changed. So much happened while he was gone, and hearing about him was a massive surprise. He honestly believes the guy survived only because his heart has a simple regeneration skill. Jio admits he had zero idea he would recover this much either. Back when he was young, his healing factor was actually pretty slow. It is really good to see him doing well. Do-hyung lost touch with most of their old crew over the years. He clearly remembers the mutant stun guns and capture tools, along with the sounds of his friends being dragged away. He still remembers every single detail perfectly. Just hearing the word laboratory makes his body react on its own. Pure terror sets in, reacting exactly like Pavlov and his famous conditioned dog. Even right now, he feels like he's about to spiral totally out of control. He asks if Jio is not terrified of the lab too. Jio stays quiet for a few seconds, but soon enough he admits that he is absolutely terrified too. The real problem is losing someone right in front of his own eyes. That hurts so much more than having his own body ripped to shreds. That is exactly why he plans to tear that entire laboratory out by the roots. He has felt enough fear for one lifetime and he is done running away. It is time to erase those people from history. He promises to become their absolute worst nightmare. Meanwhile, Hyen tracks the cargo from afar using her binoculars. She reports the targets have passed by signaling them to block the road. Her secretary issues the orders immediately and fires up the signal jammer. Do-hyung jumps in announcing his group is completely ready too. Hyen reviews the plan one last time. They are keeping communication to an absolute minimum, not risking detection by those bastards. Everyone is counting on Kim Jio to make the call, and here is where it gets crazy. The guy takes a massive leap straight into the action. The truck driver is left completely confused by the entire scene. He just stares, wondering what is falling right out of the sky. Watching from afar, Do-young tells himself he has to overcome this fear. In a split second, he activates his power to mold the stones on the ground. The driver instantly panics. Is that guy a heart mutant? But suddenly, a massive wall of solid rock violently blocks the road. With absolutely no way out, every single vehicle crashes straight into the stone barricade. Do-hyun notes that the metal is incredibly tough. There is not a single scratch on that transport vehicle after such a brutal crash. Grabbing the radio, the driver frantically reports that they are under heavy attack. He screams at the guards to protect the test subject. Nobody is allowed to open those transport vehicle doors. They cannot let them in. That mutant must stay locked inside. That is when Jio lands heavily right on the roof. He tells them it is already too late, sending the driver into total shock. The other guards scream in pure desperation to lock the doors tight, but Jio calmly tells them that is not going to be necessary. He just starts bashing the iron door with a massive jagged rock. The impact is so ridiculously brutal that his own fingers are completely shattered. The terrified guards freeze. How did this absolute lunatic just tear through heavy military armor using almost nothing but his bare hands? Without hesitation, he shoves both hands right into the hole he just created. He uses sheer brute force to tear the metal wide open in one go. Inside, something specific catches his eye. Limnarin's coat is just tossed aside. Suddenly, a squad of armored soldiers starts advancing straight toward the truck. Their orders are simple: take out the invader on sight. Jio yells out that he found the girl, giving them exactly 5 minutes to finish this. Do-young slams his hands into the dirt with insane force. Stone barriers shoot up, trapping the soldiers and crushing them right on the spot. A few scramble to escape. They fire relentlessly, desperately trying to figure out their target's abilities. A bullet nails Do-young, but the shooters immediately realize his skin is completely hardened. Jio's power is still a massive question mark. The soldiers instantly shift focus, deciding to light him up with everything they have. Jio ducks the gunfire and hides behind the vehicles. Then he just takes off in the opposite direction. The soldiers yell that the enemy is rushing them, using the stone mutant for cover. Jio lands a brutal hit, sinking a soldier's glasses into his face. He repeats this absolute beatdown a few more times. The squad gets tossed around until a lucky shot nails Jio in the head, followed by a barrage to his chest and legs. His body is riddled with holes, but he immediately starts healing. Moving fast, he launches an agent into the air before rushing the rest. Suddenly, a massive impact knocks him backward. Electric harpoons pierce and snare his body. Do-young notes how terrifying that weapon is he used to ignore shock gear since it never pierced his wall. But one harpoon shoots straight for his chest. Voltage kicks in, electrocuting Do-young instantly. His defensive stone wall starts to crumble. Snapping back to reality, he raises the stones again. His body still clearly remembers that pain. He knows the stakes. If that electricity hits, his powers shut down entirely, leaving him completely wide open in this fight. But this time, he easily dodges the harpoons. Cursing himself, he realizes he doesn't need to fear this tech or dwell on his past. After all, those weapons mean nothing if the generators get destroyed until a heavy attack blindsides him. He falls rolling backward. The agents aim their explosive rounds right at him, opening fire without mercy. Do-young covers his face using rocks to block the barrage, but those harpoons punch right through the crossfire, instantly snaring his arm. Do-young figures he is caught for good. His double stone layer gets pierced flawlessly, but Jio grabs the wires right before they hit his friend, taking the entire electrical blast in his place. The soldiers stand there stunned. This regenerating mutant is just tanking the raw electrical current. They decide to keep the juice flowing until he goes down for good. They crank it to maximum voltage, but here is where things get genuinely terrifying. Jio just yanks the power cables toward himself. He drags the officers along for the ride, tossing them away with sheer brute force. One guy is completely baffled. How is this kid surviving a shock that kills normal people? Jio casually complains about the pain, warning them not to use stuff like that on real people. The officer asks where he came from and what he wants. Our guy answers he just wants his friend back, a story the soldier finds suspicious. He claims he has no clue who the boy wants, but warns him he picked the wrong fight. Jio does not waste time. He charges right in and finishes the guy off. Afterward, Du-yong suggests tying all the officers up. However, his friend makes it clear they are completely out of time. Du-yong assumes they have plenty of time since the rescue is done. Then he opens the cargo hold and gets a massive scare. Lim Naren is not inside. Instead, they just freed some totally unknown guy. Jio makes it crystal clear they need to find that girl. He rips the driver's door clean off with insane strength just to find her hiding spot. The driver practically begs for his life. Our guy calls his bluff, speak up right now about the girl who was supposed to be in that transport. The intel promised she would be on this exact route, but these guys swap the test subjects. Time is ticking, so the driver spills it fast. Jio just wants her location. Turns out she is locked inside the temporary mutant detention center. Inside that center, a scientist reports the girl is totally unconscious, but her vitals remain stable. Her eye response is super weak and she barely feels any pain. Wait, check this out. A sharp spike suddenly grows from her body, narrowly missing the scientist. Another guy yells to stay alert, even knocked out her body is reacting. She has zero clue what is happening, but her defense instinct stays active. The guy actually praises how fast those spikes form. But he makes one thing perfectly clear: he is definitely not after some simple spikes. He grabs the girl by the face, telling her he only cares about her rapid healing. Her ability is weaker than our main characters, but perfectly fine for their twisted experiments. Just one rule: keep her breathing. A dead subject means completely useless data. Right on cue, a scientist frantically calls the director. They have a massive problem. Team 1 just got totally ambushed out on the streets. The director is absolutely baffled about how their secret route leaked. Plans ruined, he instantly delays the second team's departure. He orders everyone back inside. Suddenly, the terrified scientists stare up at the ceiling. A massive boulder smashes right through the facility door, completely crushing everything in its path. Over the radio, Jin announces he found their temporary base. Rescue mission is a go. The doctor instantly realizes 2 mutants just breached their walls. The doctor furiously demands how they have the actual nerve to be this reckless. An officer stammers that she is with Team 2. Do-hyung demands the schedule right now. Terrified, the guard nervously hands over the papers. He begs for mercy, swearing he knows nothing and was just following his transfer orders. Jin points out that Supervisor Han Kichiol is running this case. Back inside the lab, armed guards push against the intruders. Heavy gunfire lights up Jin and Do-hyung's hiding spot. Jin admits he never expected to see Kichiol in charge. The guy used to be a nobody researcher. Do-hyung agrees. He had no idea the guy climbed the corporate ladder this fast. That crazy promotion probably stems from 3 years ago when several friends got dragged back here. Because of this, they decide to split up immediately. The enemy specializes in capture and lockdown, so sticking together just slows them down. Jin declares he will grab Lim Naren while Do-hyung acts as the ultimate loud distraction. Do-hyung rolls his eyes. He completely gets the logic, but it still stings a little bit. Jin reminds his buddy they both signed up for hell today. Rescuing Naren is priority number 1, though. He casually offers to swap roles. Do-hyung touches the ground and activates his power, telling his partner to drop the nonsense. Instantly, massive stone fists erupt straight out of the concrete. He smirks. They both know he is way better at making a scene anyway. He tells Jin to go on ahead. Leave this place completely to him. The guards lock onto Do-hyung with weapons drawn, immediately opening fire with absolutely everything they have. A bullet smacks Do-hyung right in the forehead, but he tanks it with stone, forming heavy, rocky armor straight over his fist. Charging forward, he yells that a tight space like this is absolutely perfect for his power. His heavy impact sends those guards flying. A panicked guard screams out high-risk mutant rock abilities. They frantically reload. The commander orders them to break out the high-caliber weapons, but suddenly, a heavy chain whips through the air. The chain strikes Do-hyung's fist dead on, and a cold voice suddenly orders a ceasefire. Han Kichiol steps out from the shadows, casually stating they cannot just execute such a precious subject. He points out this is Subject 72, the rock manipulator. He says Do-hyung's name, and the kid realizes his mask is totally gone. Kichiol brings up some nasty history. After escaping 3 years ago, Do-hyung actually swore his absolute loyalty to this lab. The supervisor cruelly declares he betrayed them again, so he is officially beyond salvation. Watch how twisted this gets. In the past, the supervisor crushed Do-hyung with chains while the kid screamed endlessly for his life. Kichiol laughs, noting how the kid's stone armor just crumbled away on its own, out of pure trauma, not from any physical hit. He mocks the boy, a highly useful ability ruined by absolute terror, yet somehow this coward still had the sheer audacity to escape. The supervisor figures the other subjects just dragged him along since Do Hyung was always way too pathetic to make a bold decision himself. He gives one final warning. From now on, the boy works solely for the lab, and that is the only way he survives today. Back to reality. Kichiol keeps taunting him, claiming a spineless coward like Do Hyung would never find the actual courage to betray them alone. Pushed too far, Do Hyung reinforces his heavy stone fist, screaming that absolutely nobody forced him into this. He roars that he came on his own 2 feet. Yanking the chain with all his strength, he pulls Kichiol forward, totally catching the supervisor off guard. Recovering instantly, Kichiol casually unleashes a massive wave of chains. Standing on the levitating chains, he remarks that Do Hyung only joined this invasion because he was desperately terrified of being abandoned again. Do Hyung freezes up entirely. His big emotional attack was just effortlessly blocked. The guards fire up the generator one more time, shooting heavy stun blasts to quickly contain the panicked kid. Do Hyung spots the sparks and barely dodges. Sprinting backward, he curses the guy in his head. What an unbelievably arrogant bastard. The officers keep firing, yelling to block his escape route completely. Han Cheol launches his spiked ball. The weapon closes in fast. Do Hyung grits his teeth, knowing this bastard always targets his deepest insecurities. Han Cheol waits for the exact second the boy freezes up in pure fear, but then Do Hyung throws up a massive rock wall. He remembers almost collapsing completely just a few moments ago, but those chains wrap right around the stone, binding the young man tightly once again. Han Cheol asks him, "Did you really think a little rebellion changes anything?" He sneers that the kid is still terrified. Clearly, he just has not been beaten nearly enough yet. He warns him clearly. If the boy learned the wrong lesson, he can teach him everything from scratch. This time, he will make sure his body remembers first. He flashes a totally wicked smile. Do Hyung grips the wall and tears a piece off. He admits the guy is right. Even now, he just wants to run away. But he remembers that he already ran away and survived once before. He turned his back on his friends and did absolutely nothing. Now his stone heart begins reacting strongly with the brand new rock. The bricks totally shatter the chain. Do Hyung calls the whole situation suffocating, declaring that he will never run away from this again. Han Cheol questions him, "Did you swallow those bricks to gain control over them just to build this structure?" Do Hyung charges forward, swinging a giant fist. He yells out even a total coward wants to save his friends like anybody else. The police and soldiers get sent flying backward from the massive impact. They skid across the dirt and drop their weapons. Do Hyung finishes the brutal strike and breathes heavily. The damage from that impact is massive. Han Cheol stands there completely unharmed. He mocks him using bricks to scatter shrapnel everywhere, cause absolutely zero real damage. He openly mocks him, saying the attack was so slow it almost made him yawn. Then he asks if the boy thinks he's an idiot. The plan is totally obvious, he states. The other guy slipped away to grab Lim Naren, but he already sent a full squad right after him, right after he says that Do Hyung collapses hard. Officers approach to capture him, but the radio suddenly buzzes the director, warning that the internal security team just got completely annihilated. Han Cheol stands there completely confused. The radio guy desperately reports that the intruder inside is also a high-risk mutant. Han Cheol tries processing this crazy information. Watch how this trap closes. He looks down and sees Do Hyung smiling on the ground. He suddenly realizes this boy was the real distraction all along. He orders his officers to handle Do Hyung, declaring he will go after Lim Naren himself. Over in the other area, Jio easily shatters the chains. He begs her to wake up, promising he is finally there to rescue her. Lim Naren looks at him totally confused. The boy offers a sincere smile until heavy chains shoot straight from the director's hands. They instantly wrap right around Jio's neck. Han Cheol imprisons him completely. He brags about his lucky day. 2 extremely valuable test subjects just dropped right into his hands. Then he furiously demands to know how this guy dared infiltrate his lab like a rat. Jio stares back, thinking about Han Cheol. Have 3 whole years really passed already? The cold metal chains bring back that awful suffocating grip. Han Cheol calls him pure trash who just waste their money. He complains that no matter how much they train soldiers to handle mutants, they all remain totally useless. So he demands to know who could annihilate a force that big. Is he just another test subject who betrayed them like Do Hyung did? Jio stays silent and just grips the chains. Han Cheol asks what is wrong with him, wondering if the kid cannot even speak. He thinks the guy froze in fear while Jio just stares at him coldly. Flashback to the past, the boy hides in a closet, terrified. Then Han Cheol suddenly appears, holding a lollipop, asking why he is hiding again. He tells him not to be afraid, saying he needs to help his friends out. Jio questions this, sounding incredibly fearful. Han Cheol promises the other children will escape the experiments if he just holds on a little longer. The boy asks if he promises. Han Cheol completely guarantees it. Now the instrument table sits covered in fresh blood. The lollipop lies on the floor. Han Chiol analyzes the test results, saying his friends will be so grateful. Jio realizes this vicious cycle begins all over again. He uses friends as bait only to run those terrible experiments anyway. Han Chiol announces a test for the chain's tensile strength. He tightens everything while the boy screams in agony, binding Jio's hands and even his fingers. This is exactly how he snaps Jio's neck. He notes it took exactly 3 seconds to fracture, calling the result completely disappointing. So he easily controls the intensity of the impact. Another heavy chain flies straight at him, striking Jio's body multiple times. The chains whip fast and completely trap his arm. Jio would gladly trade his own life just to kill this absolute bastard, but he knows he has to endure the pain for his friends. Han Chiol taps his pen and suddenly gets a massive scare. Han Kichiol watches the tip of his chain morph. He wonders how this is even happening. His bindings are supposed to be a fixed ability. He zeroes in on the energy structure. Could his power actually be shattering its limits and taking on a whole new form? The mad scientist unloads a rapid barrage into the boy. He suddenly recalls a study pushing the heart to the brink speeds up power evolution. If he can shape these chains into absolutely anything, his potential just became limitless. So he keeps tearing into Jio with every brutal method imaginable until Han Kichiol literally sheds tears of pure joy. He actually thanks Kim Jio for the breakthrough. He claims the kid helped him reach the next tier, but Jio just remembers how this psycho uses his body to invent new forms of pain. The boy grabs tight onto the heavy chains wrapped around his neck. Han Kichiol realizes his stats scream regeneration mutant, but something feels off. Any normal healer would fight back by now, yet this kid just stands there completely frozen. The metal bindings are not what is keeping him pinned. The second his body recognized the scientist, he just gave up resisting altogether. That is definitely not how you react to a total stranger. The researcher demands answers. Did he run experiments on this kid in the past? Jio uses that split-second distraction and lunges straight ahead. He sinks a devastating right hook straight into the researcher's face. Han Kichiol looks totally lost as his steel chains shatter into pieces. That massive impact sends the scientist flying backward through the air. Tumbling violently across the floor, he spins completely out of control before his back slams dead into a concrete wall. He crumples down, gasping hard for air. He scrambles to figure out what went wrong. The kid was wrapped up tight just a second ago, and then he strikes. Launched across the room again, Han Kichiol thinks this is impossible. Even the strongest brute force mutant cannot just snap forged steel chains like twigs. But then the scientist spots one very crucial detail. The metal links are violently twisted apart. Did this little punk actually do that on purpose? Jio points out a basic fact: chains can handle a direct pull, but they fail completely against sideways pressure. Focus all your strength on one link and it snaps. While this sick researcher was testing torture methods on his body, Jio was quietly memorizing every single detail about his enemy. Gritting his teeth in absolute rage, Han Kichiol summons a fresh barrage of chains straight out of his palms. He hurls everything he has at the boy. Do not get cocky just because you broke a couple of toys, he warns. The metal surges right at Jio, but the kid does not even blink. Suddenly, Han Kichiol violently reverses the attack trajectory. Morphing the tips into heavy iron maces, he brings them crashing down. Jio instantly dashes forward with explosive speed. He weaves flawlessly through every single strike right until a stray chain whips out and catches his ankle. He immediately snaps his gaze down. Han Kichiol mocks his little trick for twisting the links. He smirks, pointing out that the whole game changes when attacks come from every direction. Coming from the flanks, striking from behind, or sweeping right under his feet, there is nowhere left to hide. Breaking a couple links does not make you special, he shouts. As the metal weapons close in, Jio flashes back to the dark days when he was literally nothing but a skeleton. Ducking down on pure survival reflex, he launches himself upward to avoid a fatal blow from behind. He lands on his feet, totally primed for the very next clash. But watch this payback. Han Kichiol stares in utter disbelief while Jio calmly reflects that he did not just break one pair of chains. He remembers countless steel chains shredding his body back then. All that endless torment taught him exactly how this psycho moves and exactly where his defense falls wide open. Memorizing every single attack pattern, he snatches a chain right out of thin air. Han Kichiol completely freezes in shock. Jio rips the chain forward with terrifying force, pulling the scientist right into striking range. The kid calmly explains he knows the technique because he literally drove those exact chains right into his own flesh. Without hesitating, Jio slams the scientist face first into the concrete floor. Jio unloads every ounce of his pent-up rage into the beating. Han Kichiol desperately blocks with a thick cluster of chains. He just cannot process how a simple regeneration mutant packs this much physical power. Blood sprays wildly from the scientist's mouth as he jumps back on pure survival instinct. How does this kid dodge everything and still counterattack, he wonders. The researcher finally realizes it. The boy was absolutely one of his former test subjects. Han Kichiel asks him straight up, did you come all this way for revenge or just to save your little friends? Finding the whole situation pretty hilarious, he calls the kid a discarded piece of trash. He smirks, noting how incredibly rare it is for absolute garbage to evolve this much and become prime research material. With a sick grin, he promises to run his experiments on the boy all over again. Does this boy really think he has him figured out? You are dead wrong, he warns. The scientist reveals he never shows his true data during tests, exactly to prevent test subjects from stabbing him in the back. Han Kichiel insists the kid has no idea what he is really capable of. Launching a jagged saw forward, the scientist warns that Jio seriously picked the wrong guy to mess with today. Jio just shoots back a cold fact: the faster that saw spins, the easier centrifugal force makes it to predict. The kid closes in and buries a brutal punch straight into the stomach of the scientist. That heavy strike forces Han Kichiel to cough up a massive spray of blood. He desperately tries to figure out how this kid found the exact weak point of his chains. He quickly shifts his own chains to absorb the crushing impact and keep himself upright. Han Kichiel has never shown this technique to a single soul. His mind races, wondering where this punk stole the intel. The crazed scientist screams that it was just dumb luck and absolutely will not happen twice. Han Kichiel fires a whole barrage of chains straight at him. Jio instantly maps out the exact trajectory of every single chain. The boy dodges the entire onslaught without breaking a sweat. Jio calls out his limitation: the scientist can only redirect an attack within a 2-meter radius. Han Kichiel stands there totally speechless. He is completely bewildered by how the kid knows yet another hidden secret. In that exact split second, Jio charges forward with absolute full force. The boy lands another devastating punch right across the face of the scientist. Han Kichiel frantically digs through his own memories, trying to pinpoint who this monster actually is. He simply cannot understand how a mere test subject obtained such highly precise data. The scientist kept his research strictly classified to prevent this exact nightmare scenario. He also genuinely cannot remember ever testing anyone who looked like this kid. Then Han Kichiel remembers a certain regeneration mutant who watched his experiments up close. The grim image of a small skeleton suddenly flashes into the mind of the scientist. An instant later, Jio violently slams his entire body into the floor. Han Kichiel unleashes a raw scream of agony upon impact. The concrete floor completely shatters beneath the spine of the crushed scientist. Jio pulls his arm back and vanishes in the blink of an eye. The boy flawlessly dodges all the metal chains, desperately trying to catch him on the rebound. He creates safe distance with incredibly perfect calculated movements. Han Kichiel mutters that this kid somehow knows the limit of every chain right down to the equipment weaknesses. Now catch this sudden realization. The scientist knows nobody learns this from stolen files. The person standing right before him is the exact test subject who survived every single nightmare experiment. He realizes this terrifying kid can only be Kim Jio himself, and Jio casually confirms the terrible truth. The bruised scientist notes the kid is not merely immortal. His physical regeneration has never been anywhere near this fast before. He frantically demands to know what happened to his old subject. Jio just smirks. It is a long story, but he will gladly tell him once the guy rots in prison. But the scientist just starts laughing endlessly. Jio demands to know what is funny. The madman warns he can no longer hold himself back. He spent countless hours hunting for this immortal body, and yet Jio basically delivered himself right to the front door. Suddenly, he completely understands why a specimen like this was so endlessly fascinating. The old laboratory directors desperately wanted to claim him. Jio immediately asks about those older bosses. The scientist explains they initially brought the test subject in, but he has zero clue where they are now and honestly does not care in the slightest. After all, none of that ancient history matters right now. The only thing that counts is his perfect subject returning far stronger than ever. Wrapping his metal chains tightly around a pipe, he admits he's totally different now too. Standard ordinary chains just will not cut it this time around. This next dark experiment will be totally unprecedented. Flashing a wicked smile, he states it is genuinely great to see Jio again. He viciously crushes a piece of iron. He knows that forcing this ingestion multiplies his raw strength and makes his own blood coagulate instantly. He sacrifices his ability to use chains for a few minutes, trading it all for pure, overwhelming physical power. Jio realizes this absolute maniac is pushing the chains to their maximum force. He knows he needs to retreat, but the enraged scientist closes the distance incredibly fast. Han Kichiel is completely sure Jio will die before escaping. The brutal chains tethered to the massive pillars whip out and slice right across the face of the boy. The smug scientist boasts about creating an instant laboratory custom built for this fight. He taunts that Jio really thought he had him entirely figured out. But this demented researcher actually knows far more about his old subject than it seems. Jio tries to swing his fist, but the enemy controls the grinding chains and violently yanks him backward. He smugly explains that he completely locked the muscles of the kid. These wicked chains will slice his flesh at the exact moment of regeneration. This deals massive direct damage straight to his bones. He gloats that Kim Jio has finally hit his limit. No matter his new strength, their twisted dynamic has never changed. Jio is still just a helpless test subject, and he remains the brilliant researcher. Fighting back is totally useless when that mutant heart only offers basic immortality. It simply does not matter how insanely fast the kid can heal. Physical resistance cannot possibly last forever. Dozens of razor-sharp chains will shred his body to pieces little by little. Trapped right there in the kill zone, his options are gone. He can only sit there and regenerate endlessly in pain. This is the ultimate fatal weakness of his immortal heart, but Jio just grabs that chain with insane strength. Suddenly, everything else stops. The scientist realizes something is very wrong. He tries figuring out how Jio spotted the main link. Jio just glares right back. He remembers writing it on the board. Moving thousands of chains individually is completely impossible. The main chain cannot attack, and swinging, it breaks the entire rhythm. That is exactly why this guy needed a support link. Jio replays that logic in his head. He says he waited for this exact opening, then rips the chain back with brutal force. He calls it out, stop the main link, and the rest simply fall. Han Kitchell cannot comprehend this at all. Every single chain freezes. The director yells that he can easily make more. He aims at Jio. Nothing happens. Jio just calmly calls his name out. Back then, Jio says he was completely helpless. He just endured it in silence. But right now, he gathers all the blood nearby. His heart thumps in perfect rhythm with his power. Han Kichul desperately denies reality, stumbling backward to dodge the hit. He screams that Jio is merely a test subject. Boom, punch right to the ribs. Jio fires back he is no test subject, and this director is just some random researcher. Han Kichul coughs up heavy blood. The heavy impact sends him flying. Now Jio announces every single laboratory burns. He winds up another wild punch and slams the director right in the neck. Han Kichul groans, but Jio just keeps swinging without a single ounce of mercy, returning all that past trauma. He yanks him by the hair. The director actually smirks, telling him to hit harder. This changes absolutely nothing. He knows Jio will not kill him. If saving Lim Naren was the real goal, Jio would have snapped his spine already. The director gloats that if he dies, Jio never finds his friends. That is exactly why his life is totally safe. Get ready for this twist. The transport was delayed, meaning the army arrives soon. Then he taunts Jio again. He offers Jio a free 10 minutes to punch out his anger. Jio happily accepts with a direct shot to the mouth. He manipulates the fresh blood spilling from the director. Han Kitchell totally loses his grip on reality. He yells, "Stop," but Jio just stares. Jio calls out that racing heartbeat, faking calm, but his chest screams the truth. Taking that blood lets Jio feel the heart rhythm directly. He instantly knows when someone lies. Jio points out that exactly half of that little speech was total garbage. The army really is arriving soon. But the part about losing his friends if the director dies, total lie. His thumping heart gives it away entirely. Han Kitchell bursts out laughing. He tells the kid to stop bluffing. His ability does not do that. His heart just regenerates. But our guy grabs his collar, tearing a clean chunk off his shiny researcher badge. He points out the raw terror in the man. Terrified he might find the hidden memory card inside that badge containing every single piece of research data. Han Kitchell scrambles to snatch it back. Instead, he catches a massive blow. He gets tossed aside with absolute ease. The guy stands back up totally enraged. He charges, screaming that nobody touches his stuff. Jio keeps beating him down completely relentlessly. One final heavy hook injures the guy worse. Jio remembers him bragging about that badge. All the data right there, the absolute most precious thing in his pathetic life. His racing heartbeat confirms it. Han Kitchell knows he is totally screwed without it. He cannot let that happen. Flashback to his childhood in the lab. A cold voice announces his parents just died in a tragic accident. His latent ability finally manifested. Sadly, it was incredibly weak and his control was garbage. That earned him a pathetic rank F. The standing order was simple: remove his heart and ship it to the materials room. The whispers start and the kid panics. Han Kitchell begs them for time, screaming he can be useful. He claims he is amazing at analyzing raw data. The doctor just asks if he has anything actual to show. Little Han Kitchell hands over a file. He analyzed every single kid in there, even the ones hiding their true powers. He snitches on them completely. One boy moves small metal pieces, a girl corrodes walls, and they are plotting a secret escape right now. One betrayed kid suddenly lunges, headbutting him hard. The angry kid yells about their promise to escape together, but the doctor casually strikes them all down, stepping forward as the children hit the floor. The doctor asks again about his analysis skills. He notes some useless info, but admits the play was honestly pretty clever for a kid. So he decides to take the boy in testing his actual real value. Prove your worth immediately, he warns. Back in the present, Jio mentions overhearing the other researchers gossip about this exact pathetic backstory. Jio points out the researcher got tossed into this lab like everybody else. Han Kichul totally loses it, cursing him for digging up his past. So our protagonist casually starts snapping the memory card right in front of his face. The doctor drops straight to his knees, begging and offering him literally anything he wants. Jio tells him to write down where the other kids are, the full captive list, and the transport routes. Han Kichul agrees in a heartbeat and frantically grabs a pen. Jio orders him to speak out loud while writing so he can hear if his heart skips a beat, and the terrified man actually obeys. The doctor secretly figures his backup is coming soon and he just needs to buy time. He starts scribbling away as fast as possible, but our hero flat out tells him to drop the false hope. No backup is coming. The cops blocked off every single road, trapping him here until the dust settles, and Kishul immediately starts shaking like a leaf. He wonders if they plan to steal his precious data, but Gio has zero intention of letting him walk away, wanting only to completely destroy his life's work. Because right now, even the lab is totally done with him. Nothing else matters except those memory card files. If he can somehow manage to sneak out of here with that data, he can survive this mess without seeing a jail cell. So he tries releasing his chains super slowly to stay quiet, but a sudden barrage of massive thorns violently slams into the metal. Gio immediately whips his head to the side. Kitchell is left totally battered, while Lim Naren casually complains about a splitting headache. She demands to know what that utter bastard spiked the water with. Kitchell thought he gave her heavy sleeping pills, yet here she is completely awake. He realizes he has to run right now or die trying, but his arms are literally pinned down. Here's where it gets crazy. She warns him he has to pay up, screaming that he cannot even comprehend the pure rage she feels just looking at his sick face. Gio just stares at her in total shock while the girl effortlessly keeps controlling those deadly thorns. She mercilessly jams one right through his eye. Then she casually suggests he should probably put some clothes on for his creepy research. The doctor is completely riddled with holes from head to toe. She sighs, muttering about how incredibly irritating this whole situation is. Gio immediately grabs her arm to stop her, but her thorns fly straight for his face. He barely dodges by tilting his head. Annoyed, she demands to know who actually dared to interfere here. Our protagonist quickly begs her not to kill the guy since he is sitting on a goldmine of information they can actually use. The girl gives him a highly suspicious look, then admits she almost messed up in front of her savior. Honestly, she claims she never even planned on killing the twisted doctor anyway. Then she suddenly asks if his name is Kim Jio. She mentions having a healer friend by that exact name, and Jio quickly confirms that it really is him. She just cannot wrap her head around how this badass in a skull mask is her friend, especially since the Jio she knows is absolutely terrified of Han Kitchell. She immediately calls him a liar for trying to trick her like that. Gio promises he is not lying, confessing that he really used to be weak and pretty pathetic back then. He insists it is actually him and finally calls out her name. Elsewhere, Jane starts monitoring the live reports and Gio hops onto the radio for a quick update. He taps the mic to test the radio feed and Jane simply tells him to speak normally. He reports that he secured Han Kitchell and grabbed all the missing kids' data. Jane calls it a massive win and promises they will clear the escape route immediately. She then asks about Lim Naren. Gio confirms he actually managed to rescue her too, but he heavily warns her that they have a slight little problem now. The girl simply refuses to leave his side.